Good morning and welcome to the Mike Graham Show. I'm Mike Graham and it is of course the Mike Graham Show, as you can see, and I've learned this now all week. I've pointed to the right sign with the right hand, which looks like on left hand when I'm looking at it on the camera, which is slightly confusing. Anyway, welcome to Fruity Friday, as it's just been named by Emma Wolf, who is here. Very good morning to you. Very nice to see you.
I was promised fruit.
Well,
I'm not going
to go there. The green bananas have transformed.
One small banana is not going to cut it.
No,
I was promised by the pooch that there would be a panoply, a cornucopia of fruit.
A smorgasbord.
A smorgasbord. No, that's cheese, isn't it? Isn't that Swedish cheese?
It could be anything.
No, a smorgasbord has got to be cheese.
Well, it can be cheese, isn't it?
I think.
Yeah.
Anyway, I was promised a panoplia.
Cornucopia.
Made up a word.
There's a lot of
big
fruit
words right across the table.
Well, Pooch, I'm afraid, is away, and we don't even know if he's coming back.
Charlotte's
been running the ship very well.
Amazingly well.
Well done, Charlotte, all week. It's all been very good. Not one thing has gone wrong. In fact, I'd have to say it's probably the first week that we've been in production here at the Mike Graham Show where something hasn't gone wrong. Because even when Pooch is here, things go wrong.
Don't speak too soon.
Don't want to speak too soon. So hopefully everybody can hear everything very well. Everybody's saying good morning. Nobody's going, can't hear anything. That's what they normally do. Sort out the microphones. You know what I mean?
Yes.
It's all been going really
smooth.
quite well. So
yeah, that's
maybe
great.
we've hit the sweet spot. Maybe finally, after 4 months of broadcasting and reaching 22.3 million views and going up literally by the day, we're doing about 150, 200,000 a day now.
It's amazing.
Which is incredible. I was saying earlier, Robert Peston launched his show on YouTube this week, right? His Wednesday night chat show where he had Jess Phillips on and he had Richard Tice and he had a couple of other people. 7,000 he did.
That's
on
really
YouTube.
Poor.
I mean,
with
just
all
shut
the
it down.
exposure that he can get with
the
ITV,
amount of money they
exactly.
spend, right? And you know what it's like behind the scenes at these kind of regular broadcasters where they've got unionised cameramen, sound men. They've got a crew.
Certain radio stations I work for, there's about a team of about 7 for one show.
Yeah.
And then
I know.
7 or 8 doing almost nothing as you're sitting there watching, almost nothing.
Making, I did a show, I used to do a show at BBC Scotland, right? Yeah. Many years ago this was, and probably it's not any better now. But they literally had one producer in who just used to read the emails that came in.
Yeah,
that was all they did. That was their job. There was another one who did, text messages, another one who made the tea.
Yeah.
Another
one who goes to the door and collects the guests.
Yeah.
When you think that you and Pooch and Charlotte are either, with one person,
we do it all.
Are either running out to the gate to let guests in sometimes, as well as doing all of the tech.
Throwing people out.
Throwing people out. Yeah, when it gets rowdy.
Time's off, off you go. Anyway, listen, you'll be very, very pleased to know, Emma, that we're not going to start off this morning with politics, because we don't have to start off with politics, because Prince Andrew has suddenly made his way back onto the front pages this morning. And we couldn't actually put this up earlier, but it's the Sun. The net widens, which is not technically true. The net hasn't widened. All they've done is, and this is the thing that I find fascinating, right? Andrew Cops probe sexual misconduct, fraud, corruption, misconduct in public office, perverting the course of justice, blah, 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 blah. Well, surely that's what they were doing anyway.
This is so
How
weird.
How is this a new story?
I'm trying to find a polite way of saying that old phrase, do bears defecate in the woods?
Right.
Everybody who's ever, but
I've got this terrible image in my head now. But anyway, of Andrew in the
bears.
woods. No, I was just thinking of Andrew in the woods now.
Terrible. But everybody who's ever heard of the Andrew Mountbatten Windsor case knows that's what he's been banged up for. Or not banged up for, that's what he's being charged with.
That's what he's arrested for,
No,
exactly.
that's the problem around the Epstein friendship.
Right.
All the other stuff is just icing on the cake. All the kind of financial impropriety and leaking information.
But not being a very nice bloke. I mean, he's arrested because he may have committed crimes. And surely that's what they're doing. But the thing that I find fascinating is that, we're always told by people like Kier Starmer, the man who knows about the law, I can't talk about that because it's
Suddenly
an upcoming
we can.
case. I don't want to influence the jury.
Yeah.
Well, what's this then? Are we not influencing a jury?
There's something going on.
There is something very weird.
Is this a massive distraction technique?
Maybe. Sort of like, let's not look over there where Kier Starmer is making a complete hash of running the country. Let's look over here because Prince Andrew has been accused of sexual misconduct.
It's very, very odd why that should be splashed across the front. Also on the Times, it's not just the Sun doing the Sun things.
Yeah.
It's also on the front of the Times. It's like, What do they say? And the Daily Mail as well.
Police probe Andrew over sex offences. It says here, right, Andrew has consistently denied all allegations of wrongdoing. In other developments, newly released files show that Queen Elizabeth pressed for Andrew to be given the trade envoy role. The Department of Justice has not released material from the Epstein files to British police, and Thames Valley detectives were still assessing allegations that a woman was trafficked to the UK by Epstein for a sexual encounter with Andrew. I'm sorry, I don't understand why this is such a big deal.
I don't. And this all started with that photo of Andrew with his arm around Virginia Giuffre at that party.
Right.
That's
which
really where the whole Epstein-Maxwell
picture, right?
thing started from, because it was Prince Andrew. So why are we now meant to be surprised that it's just allegations, we're not making any claims, but that there are allegations? This is the point of the blooming story.
Well, exactly. I don't get it. On the inside, pages 4 and 5, UK police probing Prince over sexual misconduct. Well, yeah.
And?
That's what I thought they were doing when they arrested him.
Right? Wasn't that the point?
And then Andrew Copp's plea to victims and survivors, please talk to us. I mean, you might make the argument, I suppose, if you were really grasping at straws, they're doing this in the hopes that they'll scare up a few people who might come out and say, yeah, well, Prince Andrew took me to the Pizza Express and bought me an American hot, and then he took me home and gave me a good rogering. I don't know. Sorry, I think I can say that.
I was wondering where you were going with that, but he didn't sweat.
Anyway, that may well be. Yeah, and let's see what they've got on the inside.
Kevin Maguire yesterday on X, he said something about the Queen. He said, I think the shine is going to come off. The more we find out about what the late Queen actually knew, which is really still really controversial thing to say in this country. You are not allowed to say anything against the late Queen Elizabeth II. You're not allowed to suggest that she was in any way complicit or covered up anything. But she's still an angel.
But it has kind of tainted her, hasn't it? Because, people that I talk to, who are generally speaking fans of the Queen, because everybody loved the Queen, will say things like, well, she must have known why he was asking her for, 7 million quid.
We were saying that a few months ago. Come on, there were times when...
What do you think he was going to do with it?
But also when people were being women were being carried in and out, not carried.
Well, they might have been carried out.
In and out, without security, without being signed in or out of Buckingham Palace or Windsor, wherever it was.
Yeah.
You can't do that. You and I couldn't get into Sandringham or Buckingham Palace without signing a thing.
No. Even here, in this auspicious area where we operate from, if you suddenly started smuggling women in and out sort of midnight, somebody would spot you.
Yes.
There's a camera outside.
Yes.
Oh, that was weird. Something came in my ear there. Here's a question for you, because the Telegraph haven't fallen for this, right? They've done a smaller story on front page about Prince Andrew. What they've done instead is Angela Rayner in election fraud row. And look what's happened in the Daily Mail. They put it on page 4. 5 people arrested as polling fraud row rocks Rayner's constituency. And this is Tameside. Thursday before last, May the 7th, where apparently she lost control of the council, Labour lost control of the council, so no overall control. And a bunch of people have been arrested and accused of some kind of electoral fraud. It's not clear what exactly they're supposed to have done. But that's quite a big story, isn't it?
So allegedly there were extra names, sort of people that weren't registered on the names to sort of split that independent vote.
Yeah.
That was what I gleaned from the story.
So what, more than one vote?
So there were lots of names, so that they weren't actual candidates.
Right.
People would vote for other candidates in order to neutralise or to split that vote. Apparently there were, according to the Telegraph, meetings in Angela Rayner's kitchen about this. The identity of the men, I think we can say, is they seem to be Muslim from their names.
Okay.
And
certainly there's a picture on the front page of the Telegraph with the candidate, I think, whose name is Atta Ul Rasul, who is pictured with her in October 2022. Mr. Rasul was recently elected as a councillor for St Peter's Ward in Tameside by 177 votes. Quite a small
that was
number.
it. So it was a very, very small number. And at that point, it's incredibly important, isn't it, to get every single vote, so you can easily skew it.
Right.
But Mike, what I was thinking was, can you imagine if there was any question? Can you imagine if there was any suggestion of reform having done something dodgy in any of the constituencies at which they triumphed recently in the local elections? This would be all over the papers. This is not even mentioned. I was looking at The Guardian this morning. Not even mentioned on the front of The Guardian.
No, they don't.
This is a big scandal. And Rayner has questions to answer.
I was looking at a clip from old Peston's show the other night, and Richard Tice was on, and Jess Phillips was on, and she was giving him a terribly hard time about this £5 million gift that was given to Nigel Farage, for his security. And I thought, I wonder what she's claimed in expenses over the years. And it turns out that over the course of the last 4 years, or call it 5 years, because you don't really count this year, but the previous 4 years to 25, 26, she's claimed £1 million in expenses. Now, I know a lot of that will be put down to...
You were told off on X.
I know a bit of that will be down to...
Lots of that is not her personal expenses.
Doesn't matter, but the
Travel,
point is that,
offices.
Yeah, office expenses, people that she has working for her. I don't care. The fact is that she's claimed £1 million from the taxpayer, which I care far more about because it's my money than I do about Nigel Farage being given a gift of £5 million by some, entrepreneur, independent sort of financier in Bangkok. Because it's not my money. She's spending my money and your money on whatever may be, and I don't know why she needs to have that kind of staffing level. What does she do? Why does she need to employ, 7 people at the cost of £250,000 a year?
The lack of care and the lack of respect for taxpayers' money from this government is astonishing, isn't it? When you think about it, the money, even, do you remember the picture of Andy Burnham a few days ago? Apparently he'd spent 35 grand on having a train wrapped in yellow so he could do a promo photo. There was nothing, there was no campaign, there was nothing. It was literally a train was wrapped in yellow in order for this photo shoot, basically.
Train to nowhere, very good
35 grand,
allegory.
That is taxpayers' money. I know it's not £1 million. And I was doing a debate yesterday, can we trust the government with taxpayers' money? And they don't. They don't respect it. Look at the money they've wasted on net zero. Look at the money that they've wasted on...
HS2 this week, 100 billion plus.
Over 103 billion pounds, and probably won't be ready until 2039. And they won't say, look, this is a complete joke. That's our money.
Exactly.
Billions. And when there is not money for pensioners...
And again, I wouldn't be particularly, difficult about the amount of money they're spending. However, the point that Jess Phillips was making was that, I wouldn't worry if somebody gave me £1 million or £5 million. Nobody gives me that kind of money. The people in Makerfield don't talk about that. But you've just got £1 million over the last 4 years from the taxpayer. You complete and utter bloody horse-looking hypocrite.
I know. Can I just say something about that podcast, Electoral Dysfunction?
Yeah.
I'm not a podcast expert.
That's Beth Rigby's
why
podcast,
must they film? Let me just give them one tip if they're listening. Don't film it up their noses. The camera angle is much more flattering above than below. You do not put a camera underneath your nose and film up your nose. That entire podcast...
Is that Beth Rigby?
Tried to watch. Beth Rigby, there are 3 of them, and they get worse and worse. Beth Rigby, Jess Phillips, and then the third is it's not Harriet Harman, but it's someone that you think, no, I just can't. And they film it up their noses. And it's really unpleasant to watch.
And also, these are supposedly broadcasting professionals. Why don't they know that?
They've literally got studio people.
Do you remember that great clip?
It's not them doing it on phones.
No. Do you remember that great clip from last week where Beth Reeves was in Downing Street? And she went to go and interview, what's his name, James Murray.
She was trying to run after all the ministers.
And she was too closely tethered, as the phrase goes, to the camera, and she couldn't move. It's like, you've been doing this for a living for a long time. You can't work out how to get from point A to point B.
Her cable was plugged in thingy and she couldn't do it.
What is wrong with these people?
Because she's used to having someone else running beside her, holding an umbrella
and
holding a microphone. This is why
the regular news is dead, and we are, as independents, winning, because we don't need 55 different people to follow me around, and go, oh, somebody better hold his tea, or somebody better hold the microphone, or somebody else better give him something in his ear. Charlotte does all that. She's a woman of many parts, after all. You're looking very nice today, by the way. Am I allowed to say that, or is that some kind of sexual misconduct charge?
She's looking, I can say it.
She's got a party dress on.
She's looking beautiful in green. A vision in green.
Are you going out later or something?
No, it's for you guys.
It's just for us.
Should we model? Should we model the dresses?
Friday. Yeah, very
nice.
The red
dress?
Yeah, very nice.
And then the green dress?
Very nice. Very
and now I'm tethered.
Now, are you? Right, well, we better not go there. What about cheaper days out for the family? Now, you've got half term coming up. I'm sure you're looking forward to it massively.
This is stupid nonsense.
Where you get to spend hours and hours and hours with your child.
She hates her child.
By the end of the week, she'll be going... This was the most ridiculous story of the week, I think, wasn't it? Rachel Reeves
I was
coming
embarrassed
out
for her.
sitting on a bus, right, an empty bus, where nobody else is on it, saying, we're going to give you free bus fares for the whole summer. And you quite rightly pointed out on Twitter, they're already free.
Right.
Right?
Look, I know, I was pointing out, Rachel Reeves has announced the Great British Summer Getaway Giveaway.
Giveaway,
I mean, it sounds like the giveaway they do at DB News where they're giving away the camper van, which is great and gets many entrants.
Have they nicked that from the SNP, by the way? It's the same
But it's the most Everybody wants a camper van. I do too. I mean, with the freedom of a camper van. Anyway,
I once took I'll tell you in a minute.
Have you done caravanning? Because it's amazing fun.
I was once given a free camper van for a week, and I took my kids down to Devon.
But it's the
And
best.
the nightmare was, though, that when you're in a camper van, it was really big, right? It was about half the size of this room.
And a roof that goes up.
No, it slept like 10 or something,
Yeah.
right? And there was 3 of us in
I
it.
love them.
And it was great, because every time the kids went, we're a bit hungry, I was like, just go in the cupboard, there's some crisps there. But the point is that you're meant to sort of take something else with you, like a bike or a car.
Stuff.
Right, so you can go to the shops and all that. But I didn't do any of that.
So you had the camper van.
I had to take the camper van everywhere.
Outside,
I had to literally take it everywhere, which is a bit of a nightmare. Anyway,
let me just go back to the policy.
Yes.
5 to 15-year-olds travel for free on buses. And I thought, okay, this is a bit rum.
Right.
I've got a 5-year-old. I've never paid for him on a bus or a train. You just walk with them. You just drag them through.
Right.
You just drag them on.
Don't they go free anyway?
Right. I don't know. I would like the viewers to tell me around the country.
Yeah.
Does any of them have 5 or 6-year-olds? Do they pay? Because in London, I checked.
Yeah.
London, you don't pay.
Right.
5 for up to 11, you don't pay.
Well, I see school kids.
So it's a nonsense.
Yeah, I see school kids
And
getting
they
on
have
the
a
bus,
special
and they've got a special pass,
freedom- it's like a
which
freedom
makes
pass.
a different noise when you go beep.
Yeah.
And it means it's free. Right? Or it's not free, I'm paying for it. So I'm like, yeah, come on, I'll just pay your fare as well as my own.
So I think we are talking about transport for London, but 11 to 16, I think they have their little transport freedom pass.
Right.
Over 16, I think you pay the full adult fare. Anyway, 5 to 15. This is almost, I said disingenuous, because I don't know whether it's actually, strictly speaking, dishonest. But I think it's very, very dishonest of the government. It's like re-announcing things they've already announced. If 5-year-olds don't pay, anyway, why is she making an announcement?
Well,
That's my point.
The fact is, it's not a big deal, right? Because certainly one of the things that we do know is that around the country, outside of major cities like London, Manchester, Liverpool, whatever, there aren't any bloody buses.
There aren't any bloody buses.
Where my kids live, down in Sussex, right? There's one bus that goes into Hastings in the morning, and when my son was going to FE College in Bexhill, if he missed the bus at sort of 8 o'clock, there wasn't another one until about midday.
Exactly.
So, there's not a bus service. There is no bus service.
Exactly. This idea that the summer is going to be this glorious thing with the kids on the buses. And then she says, and VAT is coming down from 20% to 5% on entry, right? And I'm going to Burnham Legoland Windsor, right? I just checked on the thingy, not that it'll be relevant. And it would be something like the price goes from like 300 to £298.
Right. Yeah, you saved about £2.
It's about £2.
Yeah.
It's
we've actually got a poll, haven't we? We got a poll. We got a poll which is celebrating this fantastic summer giveaway by Rachel Reeves, and also the idea that she was so pleased with herself. Like, we've decided to help everybody out. So how will you celebrate Rachel Reeves' kind VAT saving? 1, will you buy a Mars bar, which is about right? Start a savings account, give it to charity, or buy some drugs. Because frankly, you might as well. So 52% of people say they'd buy a Mars bar, which is about all you'll say.
Well, I was going to say, I'm not sure what drugs you'd get, but probably nothing. Maybe a packet of paracetamol.
Actually, you wouldn't get many
with
drugs.
Her money.
Yeah, I know.
Meanwhile, everything else is going up.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, they're claiming, inflation is coming down. Well, yeah, but bills are not coming down.
Well,
so
do you know
people
the Telegraph
don't have more in their pocket.
No, the Telegraph have done a great story because they've done it next to the story about the giveaway from Rachel Reeves.
Yeah.
They've actually said £1 billion worth of stealth taxes on flights is coming.
Exactly.
For the summer holiday season, right? So it says Labour is planning a £1 billion tax grab on family holidays, even as Rachel Reeves unveils summer cost of living support. HMRC officials are drawing up plans to impose VAT of 20% on top of the fees that airport charges airlines to use their runways and terminals. So your flights, if you're going to Mallorca for a cheap sort of week away, you're going to be paying more money on the flights. Similarly, they're also charging more money now to go on holiday in Britain, adding about £200 for every week that you spend. Say, for example, a nice holiday home in Norfolk, or go down to Cornwall, get an Airbnb. Yep. More money's going to. They're putting a tax on absolutely everything,
which far outweighs this nonsense about entry. VAT is coming off their tickets for entry. It's just not true, and that's what I really think. It's the gaslighting. That's what I object to. Yeah. We are not fools. No parent, no family thinks that is going to cut money off their bills.
Yeah.
The thing that is expensive for poor families when the children are off school, think about it, they've suddenly got to occupy them all day.
Yeah.
They've got the cost of childcare, they've got meals, they've got
to feed them.
I think that parents should pay for their own kids' breakfast. I'm not
should.
saying that there should be free breakfast clubs or anything like that.
No, but they've got to eat more,
But the expensive thing when you have a large family over the summer is that whole thing of activity, taking them out, feeding them when they're out, all of that. They're not at school.
Sure. And if you haven't got a car and you live, say, for instance, in some rural place, I mean, even like Sussex, you know, it's very difficult to get around. You can't really get around unless you use taxis or, you know, you just don't go anywhere.
And how are you meant to work?
Yeah. And you can't work, exactly. That's the other thing that they don't think about. They do not think about it. And I know that there'll be people listening to this going, well, then you shouldn't have had kids. But, you know, people are entitled to have kids, but you have to really think about it.
Well, we kind of need to have kids to keep the population, to keep
there is that.
the country going. It's not just the selfish thing.
No, exactly.
It's,
exactly.
You know.
Now, we've got a couple of clips here to play.
But can I just tell you quickly, yesterday was Culture Day at Ludo's school, and I was leaving the house at like 7 o'clock in the morning. By the way, I pay for breakfast club. I'm not quite sure how that works. I pay for his breakfast club.
Yeah, right. Well, anyway, it's not free.
Yeah. So at 6 o'clock in the morning, he announces, Mummy, it's Culture Day, and you've reminded me of this because of your mug.
Yeah.
So I thought, oh my goodness, culture.
Right.
He said, everybody's meant to dress up like their cultural background.
Okay.
So we got a white T-shirt, and Ludo started painting a Union flag on it. You imagine 6 o'clock in the morning, paint everywhere, all over the living room.
Oh, this is giving me chills.
I know, but it was exactly like your mug. Well, it was a bad version of that on the T-shirt, and I said, that looks great.
Right.
And then I stuck like a flag on his thing.
Yeah.
All day long, I was waiting in fear for the school to ring me and arrest me for being far right.
Yeah.
Because he's British, so I sent him in wearing the Union Jack.
Did they complain? No.
They didn't, but there was lots of, there were some amazing costumes when I went to collect. But no, he wasn't arrested, and neither was I.
Lots of other cultures at the school?
Many. 89% other cultures.
Really?
Yeah, 89%. So I was absolutely terrified.
Why don't they wear a bloody Union Jack? Because they're in Britain. How about you celebrate the culture of the country you're living in?
No, they celebrated their cultures. And I said to Ludo, he said they'd spent the day doing African dance and learning about Turkey. And I felt sad. Why not talk about Britain as well?
Yeah. You're in Britain. You know, I'm very happy that you've come from Turkey and Africa because you obviously prefer it here because where you come from, bloody horrible, right? So why are you celebrating it? If it's that bleeding great, why don't you just go back there?
Diversity.
You know, diversity is our strength, which brilliantly brings us on to our next point. And let's have Kier Starmer introduce it because Kier Starmer yesterday was walking up Downing Street, and this was not staged at all. He walked across and started talking to the press. Have a look.
Good morning.
Very pleased to see the migration figures this morning come down significantly, and that's obviously on the top of the news about waiting lists last week, where we had a record drop in waiting lists, and of course the news about growth, the money we've got in our economy, the fastest growing economy in the G7. So that's all really good news within about a week or so. And of course today we're announcing cost of living package for the summer for families. So I'm really proud that we're getting on and delivering. Thank you very much.
Is it all too little too late, do you think, Prime Minister?
This is really good delivery. This is really significant. So I'm very, very pleased. All of those figures are good news. Taken together, they're a very strong package.
And are you willing to take on Andy Burnham in a leadership contest? Do you think your time as Prime Minister is over, Kier Starmer?
No.
He's like a retard, right? I know that that's not a word you're supposed to say.
Don't say that.
But well, listen, I can say it because it's our independent channel. He's there walking up. You know, obviously it's a staged thing, right?
It's very embarrassing.
So his PR's come out and gone, right. The Prime Minister's going to be walking up the street.
You're going to pretend you've been out for a stroll.
You're going to pretend
to buy a pint of milk.
Yeah, been out to Whitehall. You know, just wandering
meetings.
about. Yeah, gone to that Tesco's on the
corner.
You know, by Westminster Station.
Get the papers. Get a croissant for Lady Victoria.
Croissant for Lady Vic. Oh no, she's not here. She hasn't been seen for some time.
I love it.
And then he goes, he's really happy that we've stopped migration. Now, hang on a minute. Surely, to God, migration is our strength.
Yeah.
We like diversity. We want more people to come here because we need them to work in the NHS. We need them to come here and fill the jobs that people in Britain don't want to do. So why are they celebrating the fact that they've now managed to stop loads of people coming? Which in fact isn't true anyway, because the only reason that we know that the figures have gone down is because more and more people are actually leaving.
And all over the papers today,
167,000 Brits have left.
Yes. And all over the papers today as well, or inside the papers, is this story about young people more and more fleeing broken Britain for better lives abroad, better jobs abroad, better pay, sunnier climes, people going to Australia, people just going to work abroad.
Just getting the hell out. Because guess what? Britain's been turned into an absolute and utter nightmare thanks to people like him who have brought many cultures to Britain.
The country has changed, and I love Britain, and it's changed out of all recognition, and it's in such a bad state.
It's awful, isn't it?
And that's in summer. It's in such a bad state.
But how can they be so hypocritical? This is similar. It reminds
me. We've been saying all along, oh, migration is a problem. No, migration is good.
Yeah,
migration is good. All refugees welcome, all borders open.
Now
Suddenly,
they're saying it's
now
good
that they've managed to massage the figures that way, Shabana Mahmood, did you see her posters yesterday? You will be, if you come to our country, you will not be welcome if you commit crime here.
Right.
So you can come, but not if you commit.
Just try not to commit any crime. Well, how about you've already committed a crime by coming here illegally?
It's
That's
all
already
nonsense.
a crime. So you should be arresting them as soon as they get off the bleeding boat, you stupid woman. You know? I mean, it's just ridiculous. But here's the other thing. We've had, decade after decade now of this ridiculous mantra that we can't exist without immigration. Immigrants built Britain, and
who do you expect to look after you in the NHS?
Yeah, the Windrush generation built everything. Before the Windrush generation, Britain didn't exist. Do me a favour, would you? For heaven's sake, it's just complete and utter cobblers. And Starmer there. I don't think I could hate him even more, but I actually now do hate him even more than I did.
You've reminded me. Watching
week.
That clip has reminded me. Because I was thinking, well, I hate Miliband, Sweeting, Burnham, Rayner, none of them, none of the above, tick, 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 for my leadership vote, which I don't get. And then seeing that clip has reminded me.
And why you hate him.
Thank you.
Emma's
Thank
brilliant.
you so much.
And then.
What a lovely. Should we just read this out?
You just want to read that out?
Thank you so much. HYZY321.
JB.
But it has actually just reminded me that Starmer is the worst
He's
of all.
awful. And then he gets asked the question he doesn't want to answer. He just walks off.
Oh. I know we don't have long, Mike, but I think we need to recur to 2 Fridays ago when we talked about that bet, because
the bet.
The bet.
Yes.
So let's just get it on camera.
I'm still confident that I want to stand it back.
So lots of people have said to me, "Ooh, Mike's." So for people who don't know, I won a tenner off you because Starmer's still in place, right?
Yes, because he didn't leave by the 8th of May.
He didn't leave. You said he'd be out after the local. Originally you said he'd be out the day after the general election, and he wasn't. So I think, and we discussed this during the week. I think that with Pooch, we agreed that if he was still in place because I say he'll still be in place by the summer.
By the summer solstice.
Pooch says meteorological summer starts June 21st.
Right.
So if Starmer is still in place, it then becomes 5-1.
It's 50 quid then.
Yeah. So this thing about Mike's going to win his tenner back. I don't think so, but the tenner is still at home on the countertop waiting for you.
All right.
Secondly,
sorry, go ahead. I was going to say the funniest story. One of the funny story. Mike fancies Emma. Of course, I fancy Emma. Why wouldn't I? Starmer comes out yesterday and goes, "Oh,
well, in that case, it's not 550. It's 500."
I'm coming up to campaign on your behalf.
Oh yeah.
Which is pretty much going to finish Burnham off, isn't it? The last thing he wants is Starmer, actually campaigning for him.
And does it benefit Starmer, or which way around is this? It's now become such a psychodrama that Starmer campaigns for Burnham.
Starmer now wants to campaign for Burnham.
Is he trying to get himself out
in order to screw him up? Yeah, absolutely.
To screw up Burnham.
To screw up Burnham.
To keep his own place.
Yeah, because otherwise, why is he going to campaign on behalf of somebody who wants to take his job?
I know, it's crazy though.
Right.
So anyway, it becomes a £50 pot on June the 21st, which probably
the election though is on the 18th, right?
Yeah.
Now, if Burnham wins, which I don't think he will, by the way, although he might, because they might fix the vote. They might just get Angela Rayner's mates in from Tameside and go, do you mind sending in about 50,000 postal votes, Mr. Muhammad Ali? Yeah, that's fine. Thank you very much indeed. We'll do all that. But say, for example, he doesn't win. Yeah. Starmer then.
So Makerfield June the 18th.
If Makerfield June the 18th, if Starmer doesn't, if Burnham doesn't win, Starmer may have a bit longer in power than otherwise.
I know what you're trying to do.
But if Burnham wins,
yeah. You're trying to muddy the waters.
No.
We've got an agreement. June the 21st. If Starmer is still the legal, not a squatter, because I can imagine him just staying. If he is still the legal resident of number 10, Downing Street, SW1, then it's £50.
Yeah, listen, I'm not a shirker on the bet.
Will go to a charity of your choosing.
Okay, how about me? That's the charity of my
choosing. We'll all be on the...
Because I need to have more money.
We'll all be on the charity soon.
On the basis that Rachel is trying to steal everybody's money.
I know.
And nobody's got any left. I mean, that's the problem.
So that's the bet. So good. I'm glad we got that clear.
So we got that sorted out. One final question for you. If you go to the ladies' convenience, as it were, and you see somebody in there who might look a bit trans, even though they're not supposed to be there, you're not allowed to ask them what their gender is.
You know, I know it's a funny one, but it's not funny, actually. No. This is really, mostly nowadays, unfortunately, toilets are sort of unisex. They have this unisex thing, which women hate.
I know.
Only because mostly men are quite messy in toilets. Women don't want unisex toilets anyway. But if you have, in your private space, in a women's toilet or the women's changing room, which is the thing that I see every day at the pool, if there was a man in there, because we walk around naked in the women's changing room, the women do, and the kids.
Right.
And if there was a full-grown man who walked into the women's changing room and claimed to be a woman, I would find that, and I'm not a shrinking violet.
No.
I would find that incredibly frightening. So I think that we've got a way to go on working out exactly what we mean by trans and woman and man and everything.
But also, what's the point of having a law
safe
if you don't actually have any ability to carry the law out? So that if you are, as a woman, feeling,
we know what the ruling was.
We know what the ruling was.
It was biological gender.
Biological women are
Sex,
the only people who can be called properly women, right? And so they've actually even Bridget Phillipson, God help us, I mean, she's an idiot, but even she has come out this week and said, we will enforce it, right? Yeah. However, you can't enforce it if you're not allowed to ask people what their gender is. Yeah. So you can't go up to some guy waving his stuff around going, excuse me, you would appear to be a man, would you mind leaving? You can't do that. So what's the point of the law?
Exactly.
You know?
I think we've got into a royal mess over this, and women absolutely...
And it shouldn't be this difficult.
And we are not transphobic, but women and children are not safe when you have this kind of lack of clarity.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's
because
a horrible,
the only
horrible
people,
situation.
frankly, who would want to use a women's toilet who are not women are not doing it for a good reason, as far as I know. You know, I don't think they're kind of victims of some kind of gender dysphoria. They are just people who want to be in a women's space when they shouldn't be.
But the fact is, Mike, over the last few decades, we had men who dressed as women and lived their lives as women without claiming to be actual biological women. And they managed, they managed. I know it wasn't easy. I'm talking about sort of older men that you would see sometimes in dresses and makeup, but they managed to live their lives without offending anyone or without claiming.
Right.
It was just that they were seen as a bit different.
Yeah, because they weren't insistent on being in that space, which I think they now seem to be.
Yeah.
Anyway, sorry to bore you with that, because I know that's quite an important issue for a lot of people. Bank holiday weekend, though. So you're not going away or anything? You're not looking forward to
steal it. No, I am absolutely looking forward to every single moment with my precious child. It's just tough. It's just difficult. And we've only just come back from the Easter break. This is what's ridiculous.
Well, maybe you can make
a friend of mine said, who has 5 children, she said this has been the shortest half term back at school ever.
Right.
I mean, now they're back off again.
I know.
And then, do you know what? In a minute, we've got the summer holidays, which are long, long, long. And it is tough, but of course, it's glorious to spend every minute. Look, the weather is going to be amazing.
It is going to be hot this
The weather's going to be hotter than
Barbados,
hotter than
the Seychelles.
Hotter than the Seychelles. What's the cliche? Hotter than Brazil.
It's usually hotter than Mallorca or something.
Seriously, I think the UK by Monday is going to be about 33 degrees, so it is going to be amazing.
Which will be nice.
Don't forget to carry a bottle of water with you,
please,
when you are on public transport.
And if you're feeling unwell, please get off the train and somebody will help you. If you can find somebody who's actually working over the bank holiday, good luck with that. Emma, great to see you. Thank you very much indeed. Maybe I'll owe her even more money next time I see her. Who can say? But this is, of course, the Mike Graham Show. Coming up, Rafe Heidel-Mankoo is here. We'll talk to him about Prince Andrew and why suddenly the story has resurfaced when it doesn't appear to have actually gone anywhere, which is all a bit strange. Should we get some news first with Edward Hughes?
It's not Edward Hughes.
Oh no, it's Fiona.
Happy Friday all. Fiona MacLeod back with your news. Another bright day in the Westminster soap opera. Starmer is digging in, insisting a leadership contest would be chaos, while senior figures and dozens of his own MPs are busy holding the exit door open after Labour's hammering in the local elections. West Streeton's dramatic resignation has cranked the pressure up even higher on the whole sorry saga. Elsewhere, the government has issued new guidance confirming that gyms, hospitals and changing rooms should direct people to facilities matching their birth sex. Common sense prevails, and Chancellor Reeves is dangling summer VAT cuts on days out. What a time to be alive. A big thanks to Charlotte for looking after the mighty Pooch's domain this week. He will be back from his reprogramming break on Monday. Please remember to like and subscribe. See you later, alligators.
Fiona MacLeod there making some strange noises. Not quite sure what was going on there. I think she may need to check her connection, which we should try and do. Coming up, Rafe Heidel-Mankoo is here. We'll talk to him about the whole Prince Andrew stuff, which is on the front pages this morning. Andrew Inquiry looks at sexual misconduct on the front of the Times. Police probe Andrew over sex offences, which I kind of thought they were doing anyway. It's kind of an old story. But anyway, we'll come to that in a second. Just before we do that, Howard Cox is here, who is, of course, from Fairfield, UK. He was trying to deliver a petition to Downing Street the other day, and it wasn't as easy as it should have been. Howard, very good morning to you, sir.
Good morning, Mike.
What can you tell us? You tried to deliver the petition to Downing Street, and somehow they wouldn't let you.
Well, it wasn't Downing Street; it was the Treasury. But
okay.
we tried to deliver it. We had about 11 MPs, all Tory, and I thank them all for coming along. Despite the fact the Treasury and Rachel Reeves were told that we were delivering the petition, when we got there, a Jobsworth came out and said, "No, we're not taking it." And immediately, I've got to thank MP for Orpington, Gareth Bacon. He said, "Don't worry, Howard, we're going to go back to the Parliament. We delivered a petition to Rachel Reeves' office." So it was delivered to her. But fundamentally, the petition was actually calling on the fact, as you probably know, they've delayed putting up the budget planned fuel duty rise in the autumn to the end of the year. They're giving us 3 months. Whoop-de-doo.
Well, the thing is as well, they say that, Howard, but I mean, almost everything they say gets reversed within about the next 2 weeks. So, I mean, you don't even know whether you can trust them that they won't be putting it up in September.
Well, trust and Labour just don't go together, do they? I mean, it's as simple as that.
Right.
And from my point of view, I'm going to keep campaigning to stop this because it's, as I think I've told you before, 40 other countries since the Iran conflict started have in fact cut fuel duty or done something else or put measures in to help the motorists in terms of filling up costs. Here, we just delay the planned increase in fuel duty, and we're still the highest tax drivers in the world, and we still have the most stupidest, clueless government who do not understand the fact that road user transport is the commercial and social heartbeat of any economy.
Yeah, well, exactly. And I mean, here they are trying to tell parents that they're making life a bit easier for them by reducing VAT on, visitor attractions, and they're going to give kids free bus rides over the summer, all kind of nipping around at the edges because everybody knows inflation's going up, prices of everything are going up because fuel prices are up.
Absolutely. It's going to continue to do that. Oil is well over $100. It's hovering around that price all the time. Yeah. Only 2.5 months ago, it was $70. That's the magnitude of increase we've had. In fact, we nearly hit $120 once in the last 2 or 3 weeks. It's madness. They just do not understand that actually putting more money in people's pockets is the solution, and in small businesses. And the worst thing about this for me is I'm getting a number of messages from people who can't go to hospital, they can't afford to get there. That we're talking about not just rural, but we're talking about suburban areas. If you're in the centre of London, you can get anywhere by public transport. But you need your car, you need your van, especially plumbers, electricians. You can see them carrying their copper tubing on the underground, can't you? To the poor old plumbers. It's stupidity. And these price increases, guess what? They're being passed on to the consumers.
Yeah, I know. It's absolutely ridiculous. So, I mean, in terms of what you're asking for, are you basically saying, look, don't actually forget about putting up the fuel duty by 5p or whatever it is they're not going to now do. Surely just reduce it altogether, because we know, don't we, from various conversations we've had, that the price of fuel is 50 to 55% added up by all the taxes the government puts on.
Absolutely. There's 3 things in this petition we're asking for. One is actually promise to actually not put up fuel duty for the lifetime of this Parliament. There's no need to do it. Secondly, at the moment with this Iran conflict, put the price down, bring fuel duty down. And the big one for me is very much the VAT on the fuel duty, the double taxation, the immoral taxations on that. Those are 3 things we ask. And as you know, it's unlikely they will listen to any of these things, but we're going to keep trying.
Yeah, well, I mean, good luck to you, and well done for continuing to try. And hopefully, at some point or other, we might see. I mean, the trouble is, there's no indication at the moment. I was looking just the other day, and I thought of you actually. I passed my local kind of petrol station. 162 appears to be the going rate for a litre of petrol in London, which has kind of crept up a bit over the past week or two. And there's no indication of any kind that it's going to come back down anytime soon, is there?
No, not at all. In fact, we did have an oil fall by about something like $10, but that's not been, represented at the pumps at all. The worst thing, Mike, is the fact that diesel is £2. And, that is, as I say, the commercial heartbeat in the economy. And we're the only nation in the world that actually charges or taxes diesel drivers the same as petrol. No other country does that. They recognise that diesel's the commercial heartbeat of any economy. But hey, here we go again. I mean, no doubt I'll be on your show again, Mike, saying the same thing for years to come.
Well, exactly right. And people giving White Van Man are going over the other day for shouting at Rachel Reeves and saying the Labour Party's useless and get rid of Starmer. Of course he's not happy because he's just filled his van up. He's probably paid about 150 quid to do that,
Well, exactly right, and I'd like to go and buy that man a pint because
You horrible misogynist, you. I mean,
Anyway.
if Rachel Reeves wants to go out in public, I'm afraid she's going to have to get used to being shouted at because everybody thinks she's bloody useless because she is bloody useless. It's as simple as that. Howard, good to see you. Thank you very much indeed. Howard Cox there from Fair Fuel UK. Rafe Harold-Manku is here. Rafe, very good morning to you.
Good morning to you.
Good to see you. I mean, what do you make, first of all, before we talk about Andrew, of all of this kind of, pearl clutching from people going, isn't it terrible that we've lost our sense of manners? And here was somebody shouting at the Chancellor who's out standing on a petrol station forecourt just minding her own business. Well, one, she's not minding her own business. Two, she's out campaigning. And three, she's so bleeding useless that she deserves to be shouted at, doesn't she?
Yeah, well, look, the British are famously, one of the top 3 most polite people in the world, but everyone's got a breaking point.
Yes.
And I'm surprised, actually, that it doesn't happen more often, than
well, this is why they don't go out, presumably. I mean, this is why Starmer's never seen in public, because every time he goes anywhere, he just gets booed.
Well, you remember when David Cameron bicycled to Downing Street years ago? Impossible to imagine Starmer doing that. I used to have, Ken Livingstone used to take the tube to work every day.
Yeah.
Not Sadiq Sadistic Khan.
No.
In his sort of the beast version of America's presidential limousine he's got, because he knows full well what Londoners think of him.
Yes, exactly right. And so, I mean, but this whole kind of idea that, it's all right to throw a milkshake over Nigel Farage, but if you shout at a Labour Chancellor, somehow you are the most evil, ghastly, terrible misogynist that's ever walked the earth.
But that's the hypocrisy of it all. You had Jo Brand saying you should throw battery acid at Nigel Farage. Yeah. She still gets invited on all the BBC things, but you dare to say something slightly brusque towards a Labour person, and suddenly you are the ultimate misogynist.
Yeah, I know. Ludicrous. Let's talk about Prince Andrew, because as I was saying to Emma Wolf earlier, I don't quite understand what development has happened to make the story suddenly hit the front pages this morning, because I thought and assumed that the police were already looking into sexual misconduct charges. I thought that was the whole point of the fact that he was arrested. So what's changed?
Well, what's changed is they're making an appeal for witnesses. So that's what it is. So they've basically come out and said, basically, we don't have enough evidence, I suppose, is what they're basically saying.
Yes.
And so they want more people to come forward because, of course, he's going to be charged under misconduct in public office. And you can do that on financial grounds, financial irregularities, leaking information to Epstein. He's alleged to have sent him details about royal visits, but also investment opportunities. But you can also be done for sexual misconduct in public office.
Okay.
And that's what they're trying to appeal for.
And are they using public office as a sort of catch-all for the fact that he was a trade envoy? Well, that's the public office bit.
It's a very high threshold to prove misconduct in public office. So the police have a very, very difficult job, because actually there's no evidence that his role as trade envoy was public office. Normally it's the police, people working in immigration, government departments. So if they want to have anything stick against him, they're going to have a high threshold, and they need to have a lot of evidence, which is why they're working with the royal household, they're working with the government, but they still haven't had a single document from America, right? All these 3 million...
Why is that? And why is that?
All these... Well, they're getting them now, but the thing was, they had these warnings about Andrew for so long. You would have thought, actually, and Mandelson as well, you would have thought that when they were doing the vetting process for Mandelson, for example, the British would have just asked the Americans to give us their documents.
Yeah.
And we still haven't had any of this information coming over. This is Thames Valley Police that we're now talking about. And there are allegations, of course, that in 2010, Andrew sex trafficked a woman into royal residences, which is,
And again, a difficult one to prove because, yes, you might be able to say that there was a woman who travelled from point A to point B, somehow ended up in a royal household, but you can't prove that she was sex trafficked, I would imagine, without somebody saying it. Can you?
Yeah, well...
How do you know she didn't just go, I'd quite like to go and meet Prince Andrew?
Well, and this is the thing. I mean, I spoke to Andrew Lowney about this, and he was saying, that the people were turning a blind eye in terms of the security detail at the royal residences, and it was embarrassing for them because they didn't want to stop the sovereign son bringing in whoever he wanted. But there were all sorts of ladies just coming in and out of that place on a regular basis, and but no one, of course, knew what they were coming in for. And it is very much he said, she said, unless she has some sort of paper trail.
Right. And I suppose the other story, which is interesting and unfortunate in a way, is the piece in the Mail in which it says the Queen kind of lobbied, if you like, for him to get this trade envoy's role, and she was said to be very keen on him getting something to do. And I wonder whether in your view, as an historian of these matters, that this kind of taints her legacy to some extent?
No, I don't think in the slightest. I mean, back then, when he was being touted for the role, there was none of this. No one had any idea of his relationship with, you know, she didn't have any idea of his relationship with Epstein or anything like that. And, you know, every mother wants to have a good job for the son, and it thinks it's quite good for the monarchy if you see a member of the royal family actively going around the world promoting British trade, promoting British industry. He was succeeding from the Duke of Kent, who had that role prior. And so I just think it's a natural thing to keep it within the royal family. What is more interesting, of course, is that because he had the royal imprimatur, the royal nod from the Queen, no vetting took place.
Yes.
And that's quite interesting. And I guess the idea was, well, obviously, you're a prince, you don't need to be vetted, because, you know, what possibly could you have got up to that would be bad for Britain? Well, history tells us quite a lot, actually. How long have you got? So there is a question about that.
Because I remember going back to those days when I used to work in newspapers and the newspaper business, and I would go to the odd function every now and again, the odd Foreign Office kind of party and whatever, and people would always say, actually, having Andrew on a trade visit is quite an advantageous thing for Britain, because people love to meet him. They love the idea that he's a member of the royal family. You know, he breaks down kind of barriers in places like the Middle East and in Southeast Asia, where he obviously went to quite a lot of times. And a lot of the politicians that I would talk to would say, actually, having a royal alongside us is a great thing.
But that's why it has been a royal role. Why the Duke of Kent was involved as well, because that's the soft power of monarchy, right? People, no one's going to come and want to meet Ed Miliband or David Lammy if they're on one of these junkets. Can you imagine?
Right.
But when it comes to, there is an air and an aura around royals that makes people actually sit up and want to come to these events, and it does actually open doors, particularly when you're dealing with, you know, the Arab states, which are all monarchies there. They do believe very much in equal to equal meeting between heads, and so Britain does get, I think, a much better crack at a lot of these things because of the royal family. That's why the role was created for him. Unfortunately, of course, he wasn't quite the right character.
No, indeed, and he obviously thought that he was living in sort of, you know, the days of Marie Antoinette, where nobody would find anything out, and he appeared to be quite brazen, didn't he, about some of the things that he did. He wasn't really hiding in plain sight. He just wasn't hiding at all. He was just doing what he thought he wanted to do, and nobody really questioned it.
And he still doesn't take full accountability. This is the thing. He still thinks he's been hard done by. He still thinks he's entitled to security. Just yesterday, or just today, actually, in the papers, the City of London wants to strip him of his honorary freedom of the City of London. They don't have the power to do that, so they've asked him to relinquish it voluntarily, and he's refusing to do that.
Which
you know, and you'd think he would make some. There's not been a single gesture made by him to actually say, "I've been guilty of something here." Remember, he promised in his Emily Maitlis interview he was going to work with the victims of sexual abuse and sexual aggression. Nothing has been done on that either.
No,
you know,
exactly.
Remember John Profumo, when Profumo was caught in the Profumo scandal, which pales in insignificance compared to this. He spent the rest of his life in charitable endeavours trying to basically clean his reputation up.
And he sort of kept out of the way, whereas every time you hear from Andrew, all you hear is he's sort of whining and moaning that he's been terribly badly treated. And you go, just sit down over there, mate, please. Just don't try and make it any worse.
Can I just do a quick plug for our New Culture Forum Literary Festival?
Yes.
Because I think our viewers would like to. I'd like to invite all our viewers to come to it. It's a 2-day festival, free speech, culture, patriotism festival. I'll be there. Philip Kisley will be there. Emma Webb, Alison Pearson, Dominic Frisby, Nigel Bigger, David Frost with the chief Brexit negotiator, EU's back in the thing. So it's a great 2-day festival. It's the second time we've done it. We're trying to create a new institution for people who've been cancelled at other literary festivals. We're giving a platform to other people. The left have taken over so many of our institutions. We have to build our own. So if people want to get tickets, the 5th and 6th of June, just go to the New Culture Forum website, newcultureforum.org.uk. Here endeth the advert.
And it will be in London, I assume.
It's going to be in Westminster in London, and I'll be there and look forward to seeing you.
Yeah, no, always great. I mean, the New Culture Forum is a magnificent organisation, of course, started up by our late very good friend, who was a magnificent individual, who kind of was one of the first people I think I met in the sort of Westminster bubble, if you like, if you want to call it that. Who sort of was a very thoughtful and kind and you know, impressive character, wasn't he?
Yeah, Peter Wood was a great guy. This is our 20th year. We're probably going to be renaming the festival this week on the 5th and 6th of June after him. It's just a great shame that the thing he created, because in 2006, everybody thought economics was what determined whether you were right or left wing. And in 2006, nobody was talking about immigration, culture. And Peter said, actually, culture is going to be the determinant of where you are. Are you a traditionalist or are you a progressive? And we were so far ahead of the game. This was the beauty he created. We've now got 40 branches across the country with local events. It's the only think tank to have branches across the country. And it's just a shame in our 20th year he's no longer with us to celebrate this.
Exactly right. Which brings us on to the story that I mean, I'm not a conspiratorially minded person, but the Telegraph has done on their front page as opposed to Prince Andrew, which is this election fraud row up in Manchester, Tameside, in Angela Rayner's constituency, where, forgive me for saying so, it would appear that there has been some jiggery-pokery, which is now being investigated by the Electoral Commission, thanks to what can only be described as some of our friends from the ethnic minorities.
Yes, so this is a story.
Bringing their practices with them.
The politics of Pakistan imported into Britain. Yet another example of the continued third world corruption and complete blatant fraud that we see increasingly in Labour areas, particularly, I have to say. So people were asking, why was this the only area in the region to return a Labour candidate? Nowhere else returned a Labour candidate. Well, it turns out there was this jiggery-pokery going on. Some of these Labour activists essentially tried to split the independent Muslim vote, and they ran these fake independent candidates in the election. One was called Muhammad Ali. not the most original of names.
It's not. I mean, I actually said Muhammad Ali earlier as just a sort of a catch-all term. It turns out there was somebody called Muhammad Ali. There always is.
And so basically what happened was the independent candidate who was standing against the Labour candidate lost by, I think it was 171 votes. But that was because there were two bogus independent candidates that had been added. He was a Muslim, and of course lots of Muslims are voting for these Muslim independents. And if you added all the independents together, he would have defeated the Labour candidate there. So real jiggery-pokery. And the discussions about this, there are 4 or 5 people who've been arrested. And where did they have these discussions? At Angela's barbecue.
And in her kitchen, apparently.
In her kitchen, yes.
You know. But this is the thing, isn't it? I mean, Labour is not. I mean, it's very much adjacent to all of this kind of stuff that goes on in all manner of different places in constituencies, from Birmingham to Manchester to Bradford. You know,
there needs
some
to be
of these northern towns now appear to me, anyway, to have been completely taken over and subsumed politically by these kind of, un-British cultural phenomena.
They are utterly rotten, and I'm amazed that the media and the police aren't investigating all of this so much more. And I've had people on my show. I'm trying to give more attention to the fact that in the 19th century we had rotten boroughs, completely corrupt. The fact is they've returned to us in the 21st century through the back door because of people coming here from Pakistan primarily, and Bangladesh, where Tower Hamlets is another example of this. But what you get, for example, is endemic corruption, where you have the harvesting of postal votes. You have basically people who can't speak English are told to get a postal vote by their community elders, and then the community leaders, all these gangs of Muslims, will go door to door and basically just collect all of these postal votes. They'll just say, just sign it, we'll fill it in for you.
And nobody seems to care.
This vote harvesting is literally thousands, but they go to the Labour candidates often.
And we saw Gorton Denton, family voting allegations being made. Nothing seems to have come of it.
But do you know why we had family voting? The family voting. It's not really family voting. It's basically just groups of Muslims
illegal
telling
vote.
you.
Let's call it illegal.
But the reason
voting.
that happened was because the by-election was called so quickly that the local establishment Islamic communities didn't have time to do the postal vote harvesting. So they couldn't go door to door, say, give me your postal vote. So instead they said, we'll drive you to the ballot office and then to the polling station, and then we're going to watch to make sure you vote. That's what was happening there. That's why you got that phenomenon.
Yes. But why is it then that nothing is actually, nothing comes out the other end, if you like, of this sort of political, legal cycle that, supposedly is an investigation. Everybody kind of nods and puts their thumbs up and goes, yeah, that's definitely what was happening. But then there's no consequence.
Well, it's pure corruption. I'm convinced of it now. We know full well this is why so many people turned a blind eye to the rape gangs in the north of England, right? Because they wanted the votes. And what they basically, Labour has done a pact with the Islamic community and said, look, no point voting for these independent characters, no point voting for only the Tories and Labour form governments. They're not going to look after you. Only the Labour Party can look after you. So we will vote for us and we'll protect you. That's why we've got that Islamophobia law coming in. And that's all also why they turned a blind eye to what was going on with all the rape gangs. This was a deliberate attempt. And add to that, the endemic corruption in the police, I'm afraid to say. The police on the take, being paid off by these. Some of them were involved also in the rape gangs as well. I mean, this is so rotten. It's not, people think it's just because of political correctness that they didn't want to talk about it. Actually, it's a far more deeper and rotten issue.
It's much worse than that. And so how do we find a way through that? How do we somehow expose it in such a way that it changes? Because it doesn't seem to me that there's anything in place to make it different. I mean, Maggie Oliver, who we spoke to this week, always says, it's still going on. You go to Rochdale, you go to places like Blackburn, you go to Burnley, you go to Bradford. It's all still going on.
That's the tragedy here. Everyone is speaking as if this is a historic thing.
Yeah.
And we have a national inquiry into this, right? I'm sorry, this is still, we should have, police on the ground doing raids right now. This is what's so disturbing. We're talking about the industrial scale rape of young girls in this country, but again, because they're white working class girls, they don't count. If the roles have been reversed, imagine if there were gangs of white men raping Muslim girls around the country. There would be a national outcry. There would be, the army would probably be called out on the streets, right? Yeah. It's completely perverted.
It really is, and people like Sadiq Khan would never shut up about it. Whereas in fact he kind of pretends that in London it doesn't happen. It's never happened. And I often, and going back to postal voting and all that, you wonder how I've never yet met anyone in London who ever voted for Sadiq Khan, and yet he keeps winning elections. And you kind of go, how does that work?
Yeah, and just that's a very good question. Although next time, no, I'm not quite sure he's going to win the election either.
No.
But remember, he denied, or he was questioned by Susan Hall in the London Assembly about the rape gangs.
Right.
And he said, what do you mean by grooming gangs?
Yes.
Can you define?
He was trying
pretending
to make
he had no idea.
Yeah.
But the man is so
But he was trying to make her say the word Pakistani so that you could accuse her of being racist, wasn't he?
But of course, he was saying this doesn't happen in London. We now know that he had at least 5 or 6 cases past his desk about young girls being trafficked into London hotel rooms.
Yeah.
He knew about all of this, and then to Susan Hall, he pretended that he knew nothing about it. And actually, it could be that London is worse than anywhere else in the country.
Yeah.
That's the thing. We haven't spoken. There's been no investigation, but it does seem as if London was just as bad, if not worse, than elsewhere. I'm sure.
Absolutely right. Final word on Makerfield. How do you see that all playing out? Do you think Burnham will win it? Do you think that Reform can nip him at the winning post?
Well, I think Makerfield is so serious for us. We've had polling out yesterday that shows that if Andy Burnham becomes Prime Minister, Labour will be above the Reform Party in the polls.
Yeah.
So Labour will be the most strong party with 30% of the vote, almost enough to get a majority. You need 31 for that. So that means anybody else who challenges Starmer, if you have Streeting, if you have Rayner, if you have Miliband, Starmer will beat them in any contest. The only person who can beat Starmer, according to the polls, is Burnham.
Right.
So if Burnham wins in Makerfield, we could be in for another Labour government potentially, or a left-wing coalition rather than a right-wing government. It's that serious.
Right.
So people in Makerfield need to make a decision. Do you want to split the right? Because you need to coalesce. Because basically in Makerfield, if anybody else was standing for Labour, Reform would win.
Yeah.
Only Andy Burnham gives Labour the advantage in Makerfield.
Right.
So people need to vote tactically, I would say. You may support the Tories, you may support Restore, you may support Reform. Just think which candidate is most likely to beat Burnham and vote for that candidate, because we cannot have Andy Burnham MP because he will become PM, and that means that we may not have a right-wing government at the next election.
Yes, and it also means that they won't be forced into an early election, which is what we sort of certainly I'm hoping for, and I've been pressing for, that if Burnham loses, Starmer is a sort of dead duck, as he was described by Camilla Tominey. He's not a lame duck, he's a dead duck. He can't do anything, he can't get anything through, he can't manage to even convince his own sort of party to support him in any kind of endeavour whatsoever, and they would sort of be forced into a who runs the country type election, which I would love to see, obviously, because then we would possibly have a chance of getting Reform in. But you're right, what we can't have is Burnham suddenly, because also this kind of they talk about this kind of coronation of Andy Burnham. Andy Burnham isn't Jesus Christ.
Well, he's a failure.
He's a failure. He's never done anything good.
He ran twice. This is the thing,
Couldn't beat Ed Miliband.
Ed Miliband is this is how poor the quality of people are in Labour.
Yeah.
Who have they put up? They put up Ed Miliband.
Yeah.
He of the Edstone and the ham sandwich was a man we all regarded as a national joke.
Yeah.
And they've got Burnham, who twice failed, and he lost to bloody Jeremy Corbyn of all people. people, and they think this is going to be the saviour. But unfortunately, he is very popular, and it just reminds me of what happened in Canada, right? You had Trudeau. Everyone despised Trudeau. Everyone said the Liberal Party is going to lose to Pierre Poilievre, and they brought in Mark Carney, and he was very popular in Canada for some reason. And of course, the Liberals won, and that's the problem. We may have the same thing here with Burnham, basically.
But this is the problem. It's popular in the Labour Party. It's not popular in the country. You know, when they talk about Gordon. By the way, Gordon Brown and Harry Harman, who were invited back into government, have they done anything since 10 days ago when they were invited back in?
Well, thank goodness they haven't.
Well, maybe. But you know, here's the thing, and everybody's going, "Oh, they're very well deserved and very highly respected people." No, they're not. They might be highly respected in the Labour Party, but not in the general population. And the same goes for Burnham. Burnham is not a popular man outside of the Labour Party.
No, but unfortunately, we're in a state of politics in this country where you only need to have 1/3 of the people behind you to win an election. That's where we are right now. And the thing is, a lot of people have deserted Labour because of Starmer, and they've gone to the Greens, they've gone to the Lib Dems. They would come back to Labour if Burnham is there, and that's the problem, actually. And they only need to get 30%, 31, 32% to get the government.
I know. Shocking, isn't it? It's really quite depressing. I was feeling quite good about Friday until you came.
I'm terribly sorry.
You completely put me on a massive downer. Ray Parderway coup. By the way, I've been asked to mention it. The big New Culture Forum sort of a festival that's happening on the 5th and 6th of June. If you want to send us a little I don't know, release about it or something, we can push it out and
lovely.
Give it to our Substackers and all the rest of it.
Oh, that's very kind. Thanks very much.
We would love to do. So let's promote the hell out of it. Rafe, good to see you. Have a great weekend. Coming up, we're going to speak to a great many other guests. We've got loads of people coming on today. And also, we're going to do Plank of the Week in the show. Coming up, Aman Bogle is here. He's going to talk to us about the new immigration figures. Because, strangely enough, the government now apparently think it's a good thing that they've cut back on immigration. Which is kind of weird because I thought they thought that immigration was the heart and soul of the country. I thought they wanted immigration. I thought they wanted more and more people to come here because diversity is our strength. But apparently now that they claim that they've cut immigration, that is a massively good thing. I don't quite understand. Let's get some news headlines with Fiona McLeod.
Happy Friday all. Fiona McLeod back with your news. Another bright day in the Westminster soap opera. Starmer is digging in, insisting a leadership contest would be chaos, while senior figures and dozens of his own MPs are busy holding the exit door open after Labour's hammering in the local elections. West Streeton's dramatic resignation has cranked the pressure up even higher on the whole sorry saga. Elsewhere, the government has issued new guidance confirming that gyms, hospitals and changing rooms should direct people to facilities matching their birth sex. Common sense prevails, and Chancellor Reeves is dangling summer VAT cuts on days out. What a time to be alive. A big thanks to Charlotte for looking after the mighty Pooch's domain this week. He will be back from his reprogramming break on Monday. Please remember to like and subscribe. See you later, alligators.
To see you. I still do much more enjoy her than old Edward Hughes, it has to be said. But right now, though, coming up over the course of the next couple of hours, we've got Layla Cunningham coming in, we've got Paul Embry, we've got Bishop Kai Dewar, of course, with his Sunday sermon that he's going to be giving us, and then we've got Planks coming up around about 9:30, which will film to go out tonight at 7, with Tony Lapidus for the first time. Marilyn Hawes is here, and also Paul Cox, the comedian, as well. So lots and lots to talk about. Alp Mehmet's going to be here to talk about immigration, Ralph Schulhammer as well. Let's first of all now welcome to the Mike Graham Show for the first time, Aman Bogle, who is, of course, a man very much after my own heart, likes to talk about all of the cultural problems that we have in this country, all of the reasons why Angela Rayner should be investigated for electoral fraud, by the looks of things. Aman, a very good morning to you.
Yes, good morning, Mike. Fantastic to be on your show. And you know what? Nothing is restricted by Ofcom, I tell. So it really is the heart of common sense, I hear.
It really is. And also, yeah, because every time I put on GB News, they go, oh, we've got to talk about Andy Burnham. Don't do it. No, there's a purdah going on. Well, we can. We don't have to worry about that. So let's kick things off with that first of all. I mean, you were just listening to Rafe Heidelmann-Koo, who's very worried, actually, that if Andy Burnham wins, we could be in for, a whole generation's worth of Labour government. So what do you think the chances are that reform can pip him at the post, as it were?
Look, I think Reform have a fantastically good chance of taking this old Labour heartland, as they have done, in other places around the north. And having been out there on the ground, seeing what the mood is, seeing what ordinary people on the ground are talking about, and you know what? It's not Andy Burnham. It's about the local plumber. Who's finally? It's a quite simple thing, really. It's a plucky local plumber versus the Marxist globalist.
Yes.
And that's what this is about. Local, our national interest versus what we've been peddled for so long, which is globalist, anti-national, interests that are being pushed down everything that we have taken for granted for so long in this country, be it our green and pleasant land, our economy, our politics, everything. I mean, look, I often ask people, Mike, look, do you feel better off than you did, say, 30 years ago? Do you feel that your children, your grandchildren are going to be better off than you? Than perhaps your grandparents did 60 years ago, 50 years ago? And the answer often is no. And then you ask people, well, why do you think that is? And then you jog their memory that, you know what, we've had 3 decades of the Blairite orthodoxy, of the Union Party practically, continuing and doing the same thing.
No, exactly right. And, I saw a story yesterday that Guido Fawkes put out saying that Andy Burnham is still refusing to say whether he will continue in his job as Mayor of Manchester, if he loses the by-election. It seems ridiculous that he can still keep that job while he kind of attempts to get into Parliament. Surely he should have to give up being Mayor of Manchester before he runs.
Well, if he had an ounce of integrity and honour, Mike, he would have given up that job before he even announced his candidature for this thing. This is purely self-interest.
Yeah.
And you know what? This Labour psychodrama, the country doesn't need it. The people don't need it. And my God, if you look at the migration figures, they certainly don't need it.
Not the problem. But, as far as we've got a little clip actually I want to show you, because one of the things that Reform have been pointing out is the cost of all of this, right? Because not only will the cost of the by-election be quite a big hole in the sort of the government's budget, but so would another election for the Mayor of Manchester if that was the case. Should we have a look at that, Charlotte?
Sure.
Is Charlotte there?
Yeah. Mr. Speaker, it would be remiss of me not to comment on one of Manchester's great heroes, moving on after almost a decade. So let me congratulate Pep Guardiola on all his success at Manchester City.
That's not quite the right clip. We'll play the other clip in a minute. But, this is what do you make of the new kinder, gentler version of Kier Starmer, who seems to think if he smiles all the time, people will forget that he's a complete waste of space?
Well, yeah, exactly. I mean, look, for Labour, this is all a big giant joke as to who gets to lead the ship into the stones. But the bottom line here is, Mike, that this is all about, again, self-interest. None of it is about the interests of the people of Makerfield or the people of Manchester. And what can Andy Burnham point to in the last decade that he's been mayor? And let's also not forget, he was part of the administration of Tony Blair and Gordon Brown back in the day. And, that's when the rot really started getting in. But just looking at presently what Burnham stands for, let's be honest, if Burnham wins, right, what is he going to do? He's going to make sure that 1 million low-skilled migrants are going to get to stay. He's going to give ILR to millions of the Boris wave. And you know what? They're going to go and get on British citizenship. And my God, Labour will stamp those passports through faster than a socialist can go through people's money.
Yeah.
But he won't stop the boats. He'll put up those dinghywalas in bedsits and HMOs around every single street around the country.
Yeah. I mean, I saw a line yesterday from Shabana Mahmood saying we will be closing down all the migrant hotels in the coming sort of several months. But yeah, what she doesn't say is, but unfortunately we're going to be moving them into houses instead.
Exactly. And that's what, again, Labour are trying to hoodwink the country. This is typical socialist skullduggery. That, okay, we'll we'll get through the backlog. I mean, it's a bit like James Cleverly back in the day when he was Home Secretary saying, oh, yes, we're getting through the backlog of 450,000 people who are stuck on the asylum log. Yeah, okay, what are you going to do with that? Are you going to send them back to Afghanistan? Are you going to send them back to Syria or even France for that matter? And that's what often the ruling class have got wrong, right? Mike, look, I've often said, you go and drop people back on the French coast and you rinse and repeat it for, maybe a couple of hours. This whole shenanigan stops in 24 hours. That is the only thing that will break the business cycle of the gangs. But they won't.
Exactly.
And the funny thing is, Mike, there is precedent of that happening. Even under this Labour government, we have had a Royal Navy small boats, smaller Royal Navy boats, going back on the French coast and dropping people back off, albeit in small numbers.
Yeah. I mean, the trouble is, and we're going to talk to Art Mehmet about it from Migration Watch coming up in a little while. The problem is that there's no end in sight, is there? All this talk of, we're going to make it very difficult for people to come here. We're going to make it really, really a dangerous environment for people to come illegally. They're not going to be able to work. If they're going to commit crime, we're going to send them back. It's all words. None of it means anything.
It doesn't mean anything, Mike, because that's the opposite is exactly what their mission is, the globalist mission that Labour and the Uni Party have delivered for us. I mean, let's break down the figures for the last year, which they claim are fantastic figures. Net migration is down. Well, you know what? Net migration is never the figure that has mattered. Gross migration is what really matters. This country is seeing a complete replacement of Brits that have been born and grown up here over the last 20, 30 years. Last year saw 813,000 people arrive, right? And net migration was only down because record numbers of British-born Brits and British passport holders are leaving, right?
Yeah.
640,000 Brits have left. And why are they leaving? Because our own country is being made into a hostile environment for Brits.
Yeah.
And that is simply not good enough.
But
right?
that is surely also the question that needs to be asked is that, why suddenly is Kier Starmer and the Labour government crowing about the fact that, we're stopping people coming into the country? One, it's not true. Two, if they're so keen on immigrants, why are they suddenly now turning on them?
Well, I think the answer to that is quite simple, Mike. It's that they are absolutely running scared of reform at the ballot box. I've seen it even around Greater London. I've seen it in some of the other constituencies where about 150 odd Labour MPs are destined to lose their seats, including most of the front bench, which would be a fantastic sight. But that's exactly what they're running scared of. And of course, their own polling and focus groups are telling them, oh, Minister, why don't you talk a little bit more about immigration? But the bottom line is, it's the same old Labour, and nobody out there who's right-minded trusts Labour. And for that matter, let's not forget Kemi Badenoch. I mean, she's trying to put on a particular show over the last couple of weeks, completely coached by other people around her. But when it comes to it, she simply does not have a clue to deal with any of this. I've known her since 2015, and you know what? She's not a greatly enthusing leader, for that to say. And and she's not even campaigning out there in Makerfield with all the talk of that. Yes, we will not stand aside for reform, and the Conservative Party has to give an option. Well, she's not out there campaigning. She's out in Aberdeen this weekend.
Yeah, well, that's the problem, isn't it, with Kemi Badenoch? I mean, people talk about her being a much better leader than the last leader was, but I don't really know what their stance is on most issues. I really don't know what their stance is on immigration. I really don't know what they would do about the small boats. I really don't know. Because, I mean, what I know is that the people who watch this show say to me, well, they had 14 years and they made a complete rick of it, so why would we believe anything they say now?
Because, Mike, it's completely driven by the focus group they're listening to on the day. I've been on the other side of this over the last 15 years, and I've seen multiple times campaign meetings within the Conservative Party that go on and, they have particular messages for different people within the same constituency, and they will deliver different leaflets for different people that they think are going to hit home, right? And that's not being honest in our democracy. That's not honest campaigning.
Yeah.
I think we need to. I'm a big fan of my favorite political icon is William Wilberforce, and I think we need to make goodness fashionable again in politics, and that can only come through honesty, integrity, and transparency.
Yeah, and 3 words which are very, very nice to hear, but we don't hear them very often from any politicians. Aman Bogle, thank you very much indeed. Good to see you. Welcome to the new revolution of the Mike Graham Show. Aman Bogle there, great guy. Thank you very much indeed. Shall we have a look, if we can, Charlotte, just before we talk to our next guest, Ralph Schulhammer, about reform, saying how much this Andy Burnham by-election is going to cost?
Shortly, yeah.
Can we do that?
Shortly, after the next guest.
Oh, well, we can't do it.
We can, but it's not yet.
Why can't we do it?
Because I'll tell you.
Tell me in a minute. We are live, you know that, right?
Yeah.
You can tell me now. It's all right. You can tell me.
I need to get it up, yeah.
Oh, you need to get it up. All right. Charlotte needs to get it up. Apparently there's a problem. I don't know why that is. Alp Mehmet's going to be here as well. Coming up, Layla Cunningham as well. But let's go now to our favourite Austrian, Mr. Ralph Schulhammer. Ralph, very good morning to you.
Good to see you, Mike. I'm sorry. Have I been inconveniencing you?
Not at all, no. No, absolutely delighted to be able to hook up with you once again. And also, we owe you a bit of an apology because last time you were on, we didn't get to keep you on for very long. So we'll try and make up for that. We'll try and make up for that. My theme for the day is that the Labour government is now running so scared of reform that they're boasting about the fact that they've managed to cut down on the immigration numbers, which of course, one, isn't true, because the only reason that net migration figures are down is because more people have left the country than have actually come in, as per usual, although even more people have come in, so that there's still over 100,000 people have been registered as the net migration figure. But people are leaving Britain in droves, 647,000, I think it was, at the last thing. But I was going to ask you, what about this kind of revolution of socialism and socialist thought, which has been telling us for so long that immigration is our strength and that immigration is our absolute pleasure, and that without immigrants we wouldn't have a country. Without immigration we wouldn't be able to do what we do. We'd have nobody working in the NHS. We wouldn't be able to do anything. Suddenly now they're boasting that they've stopped it.
Well, at a certain point, with immigration, we will no longer have a country. So that is partially true. I mean, this debate, and we have the same debate in continental Europe, it reminds me of having your bathtub flowing over, and the water is already up to your knees in your living room, and then somebody says, we finally managed to slightly turn the faucet to the right. So it's no longer, a slosh of water, it's just slightly dripping, and the problem is solved. And everybody knows, of course, no, because now the real work begins, which is, what are you doing with all the overflowing water? And it's the same here. The British people and the continental Europeans to the same extent, the problem is not just those who are still coming in. Okay, fine, that number might, I'm not sure about it, that number might have been reduced, but it's also the issue with the people who are already here. Right? I mean, this is kind of, it's such a moving of the goalposts. It's astounding.
It really is, isn't it? Because, presumably, is this going to sort of suddenly creep across all of Europe, where suddenly they're going to wake up and go, immigration bad. Let's say that we're going to cut down on it so that people keep us in power. Because if we keep telling people that immigration is good, they're going to kick us out.
Yeah, and the thing is always, nobody is saying that all immigration is bad, but you want to have immigration that does not threaten your national cohesion, because national cohesion, particularly in the case of the United Kingdom and Great Britain, right, between Scots and the English and the Welsh, is something that is very difficult and, to be honest, a miracle to build up. And you don't want to just throw it away within. Well, I always take kind of my cutoff point is always Enoch Powell's speech in 1968. So basically, within 60 years, you throw away what you have been built up over centuries. That is, it's very difficult to understand, and it's also stupid. And I think your previous guest was absolutely right. An issue we don't speak about enough is you create a hostile environment for the native population. So they start to leave. This is another effect we don't talk about enough, which is that skilled workers, people that can, find their luck somewhere else. It's the same in Austria and Germany. They leave the country. So we have been told we're going to get all these skilled laborers from, Afghanistan and Syria and Pakistan. But what's actually happening is we get unskilled labor, and the skilled labor we still have is leaving the country. So this is in almost every respect a suicidal policy, even from an economic viewpoint.
Well, it really is. And, where does it end, I suppose, is the question, because what we don't know is what the long-term effect of it all will be. Because, I wonder, say, for example, when I think about my kids, my youngest child is 19 now, in 10 years' time, I sort of wonder what Britain is going to look like, because I don't think it's going to be good.
Yeah, and I would put that, I make the same suggestion in Austria. I would put that into law. I think there should be a law. I know that Britain doesn't have a written constitution, but I'm sure there is another way to accomplish this that says that it must be among the priority obligations of any government to maintain the national cohesion and the national character of Britain. And of course, the same in Germany, the same in Austria. And if policies move in a direction, let's say, for example, that the city of London or other cities are no longer, or if it falls below a certain threshold, let's say, if it's no longer 70%, 80%, whatever the number is, distinctively British, then there is a full migration stop, period. I think this needs to be put into law, because otherwise they always wiggle around in some way, and this needs to stop. The reason, let me put it this way, the reason why this is not part of the law is because every politician about 40, 50 years ago would have thought that this is completely logical, right? The idea that you have to write a law, or that you have to emphasize that the government should have the desire to work for the continuation of its own people and its own culture. This was so obvious to centuries or generations of policymakers that they never thought about it. But we no longer have these kind of policymakers. We have people in responsible or important positions who are openly at war with their own culture and their own civilization. So we now have to recreate legal, safe rails or safeguards, if you want, to ensure that these people cannot do what they intend to do.
Right. And is there any evidence at the moment, or any indication, that the immigration problem in sort of the mainland of Europe, I suppose I would say, from Italy from Greece to Italy to Germany to France, the general kind of, what used to be seen as the route that many of these immigrants who come to Britain would use? Is there any evidence that that's being cut back on? Is there any kind of clampdown on any of that?
Well, I have to admit that in certain ways I see the exact opposite happening. I give you a very quick example. So one of the people who was the mastermind, who was behind the terrorist attacks in France, the Bataclan and Charlie Hebdo, where at least 130 people died, is now out on I think it's called penitentiary leave. And the argument by the Brussels courts is that, well, he's making such efforts to become a better person. And listen, I'm sorry, if you kill 130 people, I don't care how much you repent. I'm sorry. And I said this on your show, and I said it again. If there would have been the death penalty, we would not have to have this discussion, which would be the preferred option for me. Again, I'm not saying the death penalty for shoplifting, but if you are behind killing 130 people in a terrorist attack, I think the death penalty is appropriate.
I think so, absolutely right. And certainly what's not appropriate is letting them back out into the general population, because I seem to remember...
Because, Mike, we have this idea, that's also the case in the UK, that there are no real criminals. It's just people who have been mistreated by society. And in fact, aren't they really victims? And isn't it not us, Mike, you and myself who talk about it, who are the true criminals? We no longer accept the fact there is evil in this world. There are evil people in this world. And it is the obligation of the government to protect those who are not evil from those evil people. And it's not the obligation of the government to reintegrate or to socialize those people. I'm very sorry. This is not how it works.
No. Well, I remember from when the Bataclan happened, and that horrible Charlie Hebdo episode as well. There was. I remember going there to see stories being written about this town in Belgium, where many of these Islamists came from, which was literally a no-go zone for the local police authorities and anybody else who wanted to try and kind of figure out what was going on. And they literally ran this town, and it was literally full of terrorists. And they all came from there to shoot people in Paris on several occasions.
And that's the thing, right? Because very often the argument you hear, and you hear it also in the debate in the United Kingdom, is how those people, they don't know our values. And if we only make classes in schools where we teach them Western values, they know our values very well and they despise them. I give you a quick example, and I'm sure it's the same in the United Kingdom. Try to talk to people who work in the prison system.
Yeah.
And talk to them about these people, these gangs, how multiculturalism is playing out in the prison system.
Right.
And they will tell you precisely this, that in fact, these people know our values very well, but they don't like them, they despise them. And by the way, very often, that's at least the case in Austria, being in prison in Austria, in Germany, in the UK is still better than, for example, being quote unquote a free person in Syria, Afghanistan, or other places. I mean, this has to be said that if I mean, in Austria, and I'm sure it's the same with the UK, I mean, the rules of Ramadan and, the fasting and everything is integrated into the treatment of the prisoners. So we basically bow even within our system of punishment to their religious, preconceived notions and their religious preferences. It's completely absurd. What I would say, and I would suggest the same to Great Britain, every foreign criminal should have their sentence done in their home countries. Because if you then tell somebody from Pakistan or whatever country that if you commit a crime, you're not going to go to prison in England, you're going to go to prison in Pakistan, I'm pretty sure that this would have a deterrent effect.
Yeah, you would think so. Well, just putting them in prison generally anywhere, somewhere would be good, but the problem is that, as you say, when they get the kind of Western treatment, they go to prison and then they get released because some idiot in the probation department goes, oh, well, they've served their time now and now they're going to be okay. Well, they're not going to be okay because you don't suddenly change from being a complete and utter terrorist monster into a normal, functional member of society.
Because we no longer believe in the concept of punishment, because we no longer actually believe in the concept of guilt. As I said, the idea is always that every criminal, maybe his mother didn't hug him enough, or maybe he was mistreated as a child. And again, all of this might be possible, but we no longer accept the fact, as I said before, that there are people, when they do evil things, they have to be held responsible. And there is also supposed to be a form of punishment, because this is how you create a little bit of satisfaction for the victims. We never talk about, in the rarest cases, we talk about the victims. I think Henry Novak, the case that is currently, for good reason, being talked about a lot in the UK, is finally a case where we talk more about the victim than about the perpetrator. But this has been, again, a major issue in the past. We constantly talk about how can we reintegrate the perpetrator? How can we make life better for the perpetrator? How can we spend even more money on the perpetrator while the victims are left out there all on their own and all alone?
Yeah, I know. It's absolutely shocking. Terrible. Ralph, great to see you. Really good to talk to you. Thank you very much. Very sensible, as ever.
Thank you,
Ralph
Mike.
Schulhammer. Have a lovely weekend. We've got a bank holiday weekend coming up. It's going to be very hot, apparently. We're going to enjoy it. Ralph Schulhammer there, ladies and gentlemen. Very, very sensible man. Coming up, thank you. Alp Mamet's going to be here. We're going to talk some more about the immigration figures. We're also going to have my meltdown, I think, in a moment, which is also about the immigration figures. But before we do that, shall we play that reform clip about how much it's going to cost not only to run a by-election for Andy Burnham to try and be crowned the King of the North, but also how much it will cost if they do a mayoral election as well. Have a look.
Your Labour MP has stepped down to allow Andy Burnham to run for Parliament. This expensive by-election will cost taxpayers £5 million and is only about his own personal ambition.
He was a Labour Member of Parliament for 16 years. He voted for the Iraq War, served in the Blair and Brown governments, and is part of the political establishment.
Let's listen to what the voters have to say.
Andy Burnham is very self-entitled, thinking that he's going to come into here and just take the seat.
And he's just going to come in, try and get power number 10 and not really represent us anymore.
In 2016, you backed Brexit with 65% of the vote, but Andy Burnham has other ideas.
The man who could soon oust the Prime Minister hinted Brexit may not be permanent.
Long term, I'm going to be honest, I'm going to say it. I hope in my lifetime I see this country rejoin the European Union. I'm absolutely clear.
We voted out. Stay out.
The cost of living has increased since Labour came to power, and experts say Andy Burnham would make it even worse.
The man who said last year the government had to get beyond this thing of being in hot to the bond markets spooked the bond markets. The cost of 10-year borrowing reaching an 18-year high.
The ideas that you've got are going to involve a lot more public spending, potentially higher taxes.
Even his record as Mayor of Greater Manchester has now been called into question.
As Mayor of Greater Manchester, he missed his target on tackling homelessness, missed his affordable housing target. That's, of course, before we've spoken about the Pakistani rape gang scandal. He was slammed by locals, victims and survivors for, as they saw it, being part of the cover-up.
You know, from my point of view.
Even Andy Burnham himself understands why people want reform to win.
Do you understand why people are voting for reform?
100%. My party and other parties have let them down.
He doesn't care about Makerfield. He only cares about himself. Vote reform on Thursday, 18th of June.
So here we are, right? We're in a good place. Why? We're in a good place because apparently immigration is down. Apparently there's not so many people coming to the country as there were, which is apparently a good thing. But I'm a bit puzzled, and this is what my meltdown is going to be about today, because Kier Starmer, for the longest time, has told us, along with all of his other Labour Party colleagues, that immigration is good, that without immigration, we wouldn't have a country. We hear all the time that if it wasn't for immigrants, we wouldn't even have London, because, of course, we know that immigrants built London, according to Sadiq Khan. Apparently, there would have been no Shard, there would have been no Post Office Tower, there would have been no Tower of London, there would have been no Windsor Castle if it wasn't for migrants, right? But according to those of us who know the truth, that's just rubbish, isn't it? Yes, of course, people have been coming to this country for a very long time. And yes, of course, many of them have contributed a great many things to the country. But let's not pretend that without them, we wouldn't have existed. Let's not pretend that without migrants, we would have had nothing at all and we'd all be scratching around living in caves until all these clever people came from other countries, right? So now, apparently, the Labour government has had a bit of a road to Damascus conversion, if you'll pardon the phrase. Damascus, of course, being in Syria, where an awful lot of people have come from. Because they now say that it's good that we don't have immigration. They're actually now saying we've stopped immigration and we should be congratulated for it. Because they now say that immigrants are bad. So they put out some figures that we've got here. And according to the figures, it would appear that net migration has dropped to 171,000 over the course of the year, right? And that's down from a record 944,000 in March 2023. These are figures that I'm seeing written down by the government, okay? So basically, net migration is down. And Kier Starmer says that's good. Well, hang on a minute. If migration is good, then why is net migration being down good? Surely that should be bad, shouldn't it? Because it means that we're not getting as many migrants in as we used to. But of course, the trick is in the figures, because we're not seeing fewer migrants coming to Britain. What we are seeing is more British people leaving, which means that net migration has come down. Because if you look into what's actually happened, in total, 642,000 people left Britain in 2025. 642,000 people. That's an awful lot of people. Do you remember when the lefties said, that's all rubbish, nobody's leaving the country? You know, people talk about a brain drain, people talk about taxpayers leaving. That's not happening. Well, it is. And it's not one, it's not two, it's 642,000 people. Imagine that number of people queuing up at an airport. You'd take quite a long time to get through, wouldn't you? And the truth of the matter is that 813,000 people arrived in Britain. So migration hasn't gone down at all. In fact, it's almost as high as it ever was. But the only reason net migration appears to have been somehow reduced is because so many people have left the country. Now, that can't be good, because the people who are leaving the country are probably paying an awful lot more tax than the people who are coming in. And you don't have to be a genius, or indeed Rachel Reeves, to work out that that means we're making less money for the exchequer, that taxes and tax receipts will be massively down. So this is not good news, ladies and gentlemen. So the idea that Kier Starmer is boasting about it and saying, this is great, we're delivering on what we promised, it's complete and utter tosh. As usual, they're lying to you. As usual, they're taking you for a fool. As usual, they're pretending that something is true when it clearly is not true. 642,000 British people left Britain in the last year, right? Alt Mehmet's waving at me saying I'm wrong. Well, you can tell me I'm wrong in a minute. That's what the figure says. It's in the Times newspaper, which, as far as I'm concerned, is a reasonably good record of events. He's probably going to say, oh, some of those people might not be British. That's probably what he's going to say. Doesn't matter. Point is, the vast bulk of those people will be people who are paying taxes, and the ones coming in, 813,000 of them are not. And many of them will end up on benefits. And that is a disaster for the economy. So the idea that Kier Starmer thinks it's good obviously means he's wrong, because nothing that Kier Starmer does is ever good. And that's my meltdown for today. Let's do a couple of super chats, shall we? It's 8:33. This one from Jim, who says it's a decent saving if you have 10 children. What, going to Legoland is not a decent saving, I'm sorry. It's going to cost you an awful lot of money. If you've got 10 children, you've got plenty of other problems as well. Loyal says this, on this day 13 years ago, Lee Rigby was brutally murdered by terrorists. Time will never diminish the barbarity of this act. We must never forget. Lee, thoughts are with his family and friends, RIP. Yeah, what a terrible day that was. Absolutely awful. Let's get one from, that's the same one, isn't it? Oh, no. Oh, on this day 9 years ago, innocent children and parents attended a concert in Manchester. Sadly, 22 of those never made it home. Over 1,000 people were injured. Yeah. Was that on the same day as well? Extraordinary. Reference your poll. We should do an update on the poll, actually. I voted for a savings account so I could eventually afford a Mars bar. Yeah, I don't blame you. That's from Real Thinking. And James says this, our ITV News now part of the government media TV team because I've never seen Starmer walk up to number 10. Yeah, well, that's it. I mean, that ridiculous video clip, which maybe we should show again, actually. Kier Starmer walking up, because this is relevant to the conversation we're about to have with Mehmet. Let's have a look at Kier Starmer walking up Downing Street, right? Obviously a predetermined scenario. Obviously this was, something that they cooked up between them so that he could appear to be off the cuff chatting to the media. Have a look.
Good morning.
Very pleased to see the migration figures this morning come down significantly, and that's obviously on the top of the news about waiting lists last week, where we had a record drop in waiting lists, and of course the news about growth, the money we've got in our economy, the fastest growing economy in the G7. So that's all really good news within about a week or so, and of course today we're announcing cost of living package for the summer for families. So I'm really proud that we're getting on and delivering. Thank you very much.
Is it all too little too late, do you think, Prime Minister?
This is really good delivery. This is really significant. So I'm very, very pleased. All of those figures are good news. Taken together, they're a very strong package.
And are you willing to take on Andy Burnham in a leadership contest? Do you think your time as Prime Minister is over, Kier Starmer?
I mean, that's about as hopeless a performance by Starmer as I've ever seen. They're trying to make out that it's kind of spontaneous, right? Oh, look, we're standing in Downing Street and look who's walking up the road. Oh, it's the Prime Minister. Let's ask him a couple of questions. I mean, nobody gets to walk up Downing Street because it's closed now. It used to be, when I was a kid, you used to be able to walk up Downing Street and you can actually stand outside number 10 and have your picture taken. You can't do that anymore. So the idea that he walks up the road, gets questioned about migration, then tells everybody how happy he is that he's delivered on his promise to cut migration, when it clearly is not the case. Alp Mehmet's here from Migration Watch. Alp, very good morning to you.
Good morning,
He's
Mike.
about to have a massive go at me for telling lies, which I'm not going to admit to, by the way, because the bottom line is that the reason net migration is down is because so many people have left the country, right? But but the thing that really gets me about Starmer is that up until now, Alp, this guy has told us migration's great, it's brilliant, we want more migration to come because we need people to work in the NHS, we need people to drive our buses, we need people to drive our trains, we need people to do the jobs that ordinary Britons won't do. Now, apparently, he thinks cutting it is a great thing. How did that happen?
Well, firstly, on your over 600,000 Brits leaving, it was actually 250,000 Brits.
Right. Are you saying the others are foreigners then?
The others are, yes. I mean, they're not British.
Okay.
But even that, I mean, that's much worse than it sounds, because something like 140,000 of those who left were 16 to 30.
Yes.
Our young, dynamic, our future is
well, they've
really
broken it down,
weird.
haven't they? The Times say to me, and this is a government figure, 126,000 Britons aged between 16 and 34 left the country last year.
Yeah.
Now, you would assume that those are all Brits, right? They're young British people.
They're the ones, yes. Yes, absolutely. So I agree with you.
Yeah.
There were a lot leaving, and a lot of them are likely to have been high earners, high achievers, paying lots of tax.
Yes.
So, and the 813,000 actually came in.
Yeah.
Now
that's a big number.
Astronomical.
Yeah.
It really is.
Yeah.
People don't realise the sort of impact this is having on our society. Something like a fifth, 19%, nearly 20% of our population is now non-UK born.
Yeah.
If you look at the ethnicity, 30 years ago, 35 years ago, the 1991 census showed Brits, the native British, to be around 95%.
Yeah.
It's now more like 70%.
Yeah.
So in that
And in certain
time,
places,
it's
like
fallen.
London, for example, it's even lower than that, isn't it? It's down in the sort of
In London,
30s.
yes, and part of London where I live,
Yeah.
it's sort of 60%.
Right.
Tower Hamlets, Newham, Brent, these are majority non-British,
Yeah.
non-ethnic British
Yeah.
people who are actually now there.
Right.
They're the majority.
And that's not going to change, is it?
That's not going to change.
That's going to just get more and more,
Mike,
concentrated.
This is what prompted Kier Starmer only a year ago to refer to us walking into an island of strangers,
Yes.
of becoming an island. You don't hear about that.
No.
No, and
Well, because he then came out later and said he regretted saying it, didn't
yeah,
he?
but the reason he regretted saying it was because he was told that it had echoes of Enoch Powell. Not that it was wrong to say it, that
Yeah.
he was incorrect.
Yes.
He was perfectly correct.
Yeah.
And in fact, the rate that we're going at the moment, within 35 years or so, the majority population now is going to become the minority. And if you look at categories of people, youngsters, those 14, say, that's going to happen within the next 15 years. I mean, these are massive changes to our society. I say that as a migrant.
As a second generation. Well, first generation.
No, first generation.
Yeah.
In fact, 70 years since I arrived.
Yeah, right.
This year.
Right. You think you might stay?
Never. I'm waiting for the knock on the door.
Yeah, exactly. But the other thing is that, what people don't mention in this conversation is that those coming in, 800 and odd thousand, are more than likely to be low skilled, more than likely to be non-tax paying, more than likely to end up probably on benefits, because we've seen more and more of that. So the people who have left, albeit that many of them are young, would, as you say, have been sort of relatively, high tax paying people, being replaced by people who are not generating that kind of income.
Mike, of those who came in, the 813,000, those who came in, just 23% actually came to work.
Yes. Wow.
So,
wow.
You're talking about 77% who were not working in any way. A lot were students.
So say you take a fifth off of 800 and odd thousand, you end up with what? Just under 200,000 of them are actually going to be doing something useful, which means that roughly nearly 600,000 of them are not.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Wow.
And
that's bad, isn't
it? Between now and 2030, there are going to be another 3 million who are actually going to apply for settlement.
Right. And those are people who are already here.
Those are the people who are already here, but just think of what that's going to mean to our welfare state.
Right.
The benefits that they're going to be eligible for.
Right.
This is madness.
Yeah.
Absolute madness.
No, we are literally the softest touch in the world, aren't we?
This is not being against immigration, for goodness sake. It's being reasonable and looking at what damage this is doing to our society and our economy, I would argue, as well.
Yeah. Well, this is the point. Many people will now be listening to our conversation going, actually, I am now anti-immigrant. I don't want any more people coming here. And I hear this more and more from ordinary people, decent people, not kind of crazy, mad, ultra right-wingers, just ordinary people who've got kids who say, I don't know what my kids are going to do for a job. I was talking to my son yesterday, who's working up in Manchester, having just finished his degree. He's finding it really difficult to find a job. He's finding it really difficult to get anybody to give him, decent paid work, because there just isn't any. The economy's dying on its arse, and more and more people are chasing fewer and fewer opportunities.
Absolutely. Mike, there's in precisely, I think, something like 16 or 17 minutes, there's we're publishing some figures, some polling.
Right.
60% said that migration had been far too high.
Yeah.
60% overall.
Yeah.
even Labour and Lib Dems, 50% or more, said that it had been too high, and it is too high, and they want it reduced.
Apparently the Prime Minister now believes that migration has been too high because he's been crowing about the fact that it's gone down. And he can only say that if he believes that's a good thing, which apparently he now does.
But perhaps he'll now start saying, actually, I was right. We really are becoming an island of strangers.
Yeah, well, exactly right. If you don't mind, stay with us, Alp, because we've got Layla Cunningham, I think, haven't we?
Yeah, she just disappeared.
Oh, she's just disappeared. All right, because I thought what I might do is get her on without.
No, she's here now, I think.
Oh, she's there? Layla Cunningham, who is about to become, hopefully, the next mayor of London at some point. Layla, very good morning to you.
Good morning. Sorry, it's a bad image, isn't it?
It's never a bad image if you're in it, honestly, it's fine.
Thank you.
I've got Alp Mehmet here, who's from Migration Watch. We've just been talking, I don't know if you could hear us before.
Hi, we've met before.
Yes, a fascinating scenario now, because apparently Kier Starmer thinks it's a good thing that immigration has gone down. First of all, he's wrong. It hasn't gone down. It's just net migration that has, and loads of people who are British have left the country. Alf has corrected me to say that some of those who have left, of the 647,000, were probably not British. But nevertheless, we are now run by a government who are pretending that all of the immigration that they've caused over the course of the last 2 years was wrong, and now they want to say it's a good thing that they've stopped it. But one, they haven't stopped it, and two, they're just being really disingenuous here, aren't they?
Yeah. Also, they haven't stopped it. It's almost like saying, "Oh, we've got a smaller fire now when we had a huge fire." But as something like 250 or 300,000 British competent young people are leaving the country because there's no opportunity here. Why is that? We have a huge brain drain leaving in the country. When I go to universities and talk to young people, they don't want to stay in England anymore because they don't see it as the land of opportunity that it once was.
Right. Well, I mean,
and I think we're losing all the good people who are leaving, and we're getting more dependent immigrants.
Yes. Well, Alp just told me that of the 881,000 immigrants who came into the country in the last year, only 20% of them will be coming here to work, which means there's a massive number of them coming here to be on benefits, effectively.
Yeah, and it's madness, and then the British payer has to pay for it. I was on a show yesterday, and they were saying if it wasn't for immigrants, we'd be broke. Basically, nothing would work. You wouldn't be able to get a doctor's appointment or buy anything in a shop. I'm sure Mehmet will agree with me, but since the 90s, mass migration has been an economic tool to suppress wages, suppress skill growth, suppress technology. And they keep saying, oh, well, we need it because no one wants to do it. But if we keep importing cheap wages, then wages for these jobs that apparently British people don't want to do will never go up.
Yeah. Let me ask Alp that. Is that a bit of a myth, this idea that, immigration is good because people that come into the country fill the jobs that British people won't do? I feel that that's a bit of an old-fashioned kind of trope now, isn't it?
And it's wrong.
Yeah.
People come over here, are brought in to work primarily because they're cheaper.
Yeah.
We're not training enough of our own. And indeed, a great many of our own people are leaving because of conditions, because of pay. So, yeah, I mean, that disguises all sorts of things in saying that they're coming here to do jobs that we don't want to do.
Yeah.
That's wrong.
Yeah.
It's not that we don't want to do. The care homes, for example, they came in. And they were coming in when Eastern Europeans were pouring into the country in the early 2000s. And what happened, as soon as they came in, got settled, learned and found their way around, and then moved on.
Yeah.
And that's what's happening. They're moving on, and that's why the employers want more and more people to come from overseas.
Yeah, right. I mean, one of the things that I remember from the early part of this century, Layla, I don't know about you, but when a lot of Polish people came, for example, and I was living in Scotland at the time, and my children were very young, and they were in nurseries and things with loads of Polish parents. And the Polish parents were all going, we're actually moving back to Poland, but guess what? We're going to keep the child allowance that we're getting because they'll pay it to us in Poland. And it seems to me that we are one of the few countries in the world where people can not only get benefits while they're here, but they go back to their own countries and they still get them.
I remember that. It's actually mad. You know, I want to go back. I mean, for instance, you have Dubai where you have one type of visa. That's a work visa. You support yourself, but no longer support yourself. You know, no one takes offense. Thank you very much for being here. But you can't support yourself. You have to go.
Right. Yeah. And why should we
I
be
think we
paying
have to
people?
go back to a model like that because it's fundamentally really unfair to British people to have to subsidise people who come here on very low wage who can no longer pay their way. That we have to subsidise it.
Yeah.
It's
And are you
unaffordable.
finding? And I don't know whether you've been up to Makerfield, but I mean, are you finding when you were going out campaigning for the local elections, were you finding that more and more people were sort of agreeing with you and saying, you know, this has got to stop. It's enough.
100%. Not even that, you know, people who you wouldn't think would agree with reform. They don't agree with everything, but they agree that they're working so hard, 2-3 jobs, and they're really sick and tired of paying for people that just arrived.
Yeah, absolutely right.
That
ask
really
you.
bothers them.
Yeah, let me ask you another question. As a woman, there's been a lot of criticism of the guy, the white van man, who shouted at Rachel Reeves. Apparently, you know, it's all right to throw a milkshake over Nigel Farage, but, you know, heaven forbid anybody, you know, has something nasty to say to Rachel Reeves. It's all very terribly misogynistic, and reform shouldn't be trying to lionise the guy and shouldn't be trying to look for him and make him into some kind of hero. But, I mean, he spoke for the country, didn't he? I mean, as a woman, do you feel that was wrong, or do you think it's okay?
I mean, look, I'm not going to condone. So I didn't hear him swearing at her, but apparently he did. I don't condone swearing at a woman.
Right.
And whether I think he expressed the sentiment that's most of us expressed, right? He's so angry. There's a real anger, and I think Rachel Reeves should ask herself why that anger exists. Why is that? But I'll tell you this: as a female who's out campaigning, you do feel vulnerable, and I can imagine that perhaps Rachel Reeves didn't like that. It can make you feel quite vulnerable at a time. And perhaps, you know, if you're a female politician, you shouldn't have to go through that.
No, true. But don't worry, because if you've got a young family, she's going to give you a load of money off going to Legoland. So, you know, that'll be all right
it's
then.
ridiculous. I mean, you know, and you know what? If I was someone who's 30 and 40 and doesn't have children, I'd be like, for God's sake, is the government ever going to do anything for me?
Yeah, right.
You know? It's so unfair because I speak to so many young people who can't buy a home and as a result are delaying having children, starting a family. And I feel like they get the brunt of everything. They don't even get a look in.
No.
But we don't need tinkering around the edges. We need long-term growth strategy. And somehow they think government growth. They think growth is some kind of government slogan.
Yeah.
That's it. You know, we will now wave our magic wand and growth will happen while taking half of your taxes at the same time.
Well, the Telegraph this morning's got a piece on the same front page as the story about Rachel Reeves giving, you know, money back to people and taking VAT down on visits to places like Legoland. But in the same breath, adding prices to airline fuel and making it more expensive to fly anywhere. So you're actually going to go on holiday during half term. You're going to get nailed anyway.
Yeah, so they're trapping you here, basically. So it's too expensive to fly, but we'll make it cheaper for you to go to Legoland.
Yeah.
I mean,
know.
you know, in a way, perhaps
It's
perhaps it works.
I know, absolutely ridiculous, totally mad. Leila, good to see you. Thank you very much indeed. Leila Cunningham there, ladies and gentlemen, talking to us about the state of play vis-a-vis this ridiculous government.
Mike, one point on people leaving and still hanging on to benefits.
Yes.
Wasn't it the Sierra Leone First Lady the other day who announced that she's still got her social housing?
Yeah, she's still got the council house, and as far as we know, it hasn't been taken off her. Yeah. Which seems extraordinary, doesn't it?
You won't be surprised to know that, well, you would be surprised to know maybe, but 40 years ago when I was in Nigeria, there were people coming into me and saying that they were coming here to study and they were going to move into accommodation that their friends owned, and it turned out to be council housing that people who had left still had, and more than one house in many cases. And they were letting properties that ostensibly were social housing because they needed it.
Right. Well, this is one of the criticisms, isn't it, of the government's policy on immigration and on particularly on asylum seekers who apparently jumped to the top of the queue for council housing when there are very many people who would normally have been granted a council house, because there's not enough of them. The queue gets longer and longer and longer, because the more people that come in, the further back you go.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the performance of house building, home building, is pretty paltry anyway.
Right.
But in any case, the migration that we've had over the last 15, 20 years, the houses being built are not going to be anywhere near enough actually providing for them, or indeed for those who are still to come. Where are those 813,000 who came last year? Where are they going to stay?
Yeah, well, exactly. Well, that's a very good question, and one that I would like an answer for. 813,000 people, as you say, 20% of them might be coming to work. Presumably you might think that a lot of them would have already perhaps family members here, because that would give them a reason to come, and maybe give them a kind of an infrastructure where they could, say, move to, I don't know, Leicester or Bradford or Manchester and say, oh, I've got friends there, or I've got family members there. But you're right. I mean, where are they all going to live? I mean, we don't have 800,000 houses.
Well, I mean, if you divide it up by, say, 2.1
No, but these are people who are mostly coming on their own, because don't forget, the government, one of the things the government's crowing about is that the reason that the numbers are down and they're lower is because they've stopped people bringing family dependents with them if they're coming here to work and if they're coming here to study. So these are not multiple family units, these are individuals, it would seem.
You're absolutely right. And claiming credit for the falls in migration is a bit disingenuous, because it's only resulted in lower migration because of what the Tories did at the tail end of their government. And that, I mean, Shabana Mahmood has said that she's going to lengthen the qualifying period for ILR and all that. Yeah, okay. But we're still going to get people coming in, and guess what? The Labour Party's backbenchers are going to stop her anyway.
Right.
We're going to have potentially a change of leadership.
Yeah. Well, the backbenchers have said quite openly, haven't they, that they don't think that Kier Starmer's immigration policies, and indeed her immigration policies, are right. They would like them to be watered down.
Well, they've said some British.
Yeah, they would like her to actually make it more easy for people to come here, and make it more easy for people to get the right to remain. And they don't want her to be as draconian as she apparently is being. I mean, she put out a statement yesterday, I think, one of those ads that she puts on her own Twitter page, saying, if you come here to commit crime, we're going to kick you out. They don't even want that. They're like, no, you're fine. If you want to come here and commit crime, in you come.
Yeah, exactly. And there's so much of this is play acting, really.
Yeah.
It's a sham. Immigration is totally out of control still.
Yeah.
We're going to get millions of people arriving over the next decade.
Yeah.
And we're going to get a lot more Brits leaving over the next decade unless things change.
Yeah.
What does it mean? Ultimately, we're going to have councils like Tower Hamlets, where every single one, if you look at the collection of people who are now my councillors, I don't think there's one white British amongst them.
And is there any one of them that would actually, is there any one of them who would champion a cause of yours, if you had one, to help you to get whatever it is that you would want, which is what you want from your local council. You want your local council to represent you in a local place, right? So you don't necessarily want them to have an immigration policy. You don't need to tell you what you should be doing.
What the hell have we got to do? Really, at the local level with Gaza.
Right. You don't need them marching up and down, do you, waving Palestinian flags. You want them to get your bins emptied. You want them to make sure that, if you are living in a community, that community is relatively safe, that, you can take your kids and your grandkids out onto the streets without fear or favour of them being attacked or, kidnapped or, taken hostage. You just want them to do the local business properly, and that's not what we have. I mean, look at all of the ridiculousness of the local elections up in some parts of the north of England, when we saw, as we now see with Angela Rayner's constituency, family voting and sort of all of this nonsense about stuffing the local council with people who want to twin themselves with Palestine. You're going what would you mind just doing your job?
Yeah,
would that be nice?
Absolutely. Mike, can I just mention that all that we've been discussing, Migration Watch has for the last 5 years produced a newsletter.
Yes.
It's free.
Yes.
And it comes out every week. We send it round to thousands of people.
Yeah.
So if anyone's interested, go onto our website.
Yes.
And sign up for our
And people
newsletter.
can get it delivered into their inbox or something like that?
Yeah.
Tell me
without
something.
fail.
In your travels, in your job as keeping an eye on all of the migration that's going on, have you noticed any trends? For example, have you noticed people coming from different countries now than the countries they used to come from? And we know that, I think I'm right in saying, and you'll correct me if I'm wrong, the countries where most people come to the UK from are Afghanistan, Iran, and I think Syria. Is that right?
That's they're sort of. I mean, certainly when you're looking at asylum, that's where they're all coming from.
Right.
But in practice, they're coming from all over the world.
Yeah.
And not only
Where
are
are they
they
not coming from?
Yes.
Right.
You've got for illegal migration, asylum, the countries that you've mentioned. Iran is also one of them. Did you mention them?
No.
You just wait until what's going on there is over.
Yeah.
Because we've always had thousands of people coming from Iran.
Yeah.
And they've essentially about half of them go to the United States.
Right.
The other half come here. Most of them, or the majority, go to Germany.
Yeah.
And the other lot, the rest, are divided between us and France.
Right.
So expect, whatever the result, a lot more Iranians to be making their way here because they've got connections.
Yes,
here.
well, this is
They're
what I'm
gonna be
saying.
coming.
You know, that because we've allowed so many people in over the years, almost 1 million a year, you'd have to say, probably in the high times of Boris Johnson. Aside
Well,
from
it's almost 1 million now.
well, exactly. Aside from the
813,000.
pandemic, I would say we've had 1 million immigrants come into this country every year for about 10 years, right?
Yeah.
And that's 10 million people. And basically, what's this?
Sorry.
What are you playing me? You're playing the lake.
Pooch just sent something over.
All right. It's dogs in a lake.
It's still playing.
It's still playing. Well, I'm seeing it. What's going on with that? Pooch is hacking into the show. Pooch, would you? I mean, he needs to
Hey,
get back to his.
don't knock him. He's a star.
It's a very. I mean, it's a Pooch's Pooch. If you don't have to do it later now, then because it's like is that his own? It's his own dog, isn't it?
Yeah.
Isn't that?
Yeah,
isn't that Pooch's dog?
Guess what?
Blimey. Anyway, the ghost of Pooch. It's still there, by the way.
Yeah, it's come down there.
She is. Eh?
Yeah, go back.
It's still there.
What
What are you doing?
Trying to get rid of it.
Get rid of it.
And if some
Anyway.
if some local authorities have their way, that's going to be banned. You know.
What, dogs? Yeah. Well, they don't like dogs, do they? A lot of Muslim communities, they're not keen on dogs. But yeah, so there's no real change in terms of the numbers of people coming from different countries.
and it's going to
because we hear a
grow.
lot about people saying now that they're from Eritrea, even if they're not from Eritrea, because Eritreans
That's been
apparently
going on. It was going on in the Balkans, and
but apparently Eritreans are given a sort of special dispensation because it is quite a dangerous place. If you say you're from Eritrea, you automatically get granted asylum.
Yeah, it was the same with the Vietnamese and Chinese. I mean, that is something that the government should always be aware of.
Yes.
But they destroy their documents, they turn up without them, and then we give them the benefit of the doubt.
Yeah.
It's madness.
It is madness. And do you see any end to it? I mean, because I don't. I really don't see, unless reform get in and they do actually try and reverse all of this craziness, I don't really see. Certainly not the Labour government doing it. I certainly wouldn't see the Tories changing things either. But, if there is a chance that reform gets in, maybe we can put a stop to it.
You need to have the policies that are designed to bear down on immigration.
Yeah.
I mean, if I agree that we should be removing all those who are here illegally.
Yes.
That's not an
a
issue.
given, yeah.
We've got to do that. But the fact is that we don't even want to do that, or some of our politicians don't even want to do that. There are a lot of the illegal population of Britain is probably between 1.5 to 2 million people.
Yeah.
It's by far the
It's a lot
highest
of
anywhere
people.
in Europe.
It is. And we've got a very highly populated island, haven't we? With the space, whenever you see the numbers.
It's the most dense.
It's the most densely populated country in Europe, isn't it?
Apart from sort of mini-states. And there was a period when Holland was maybe considered to be more populated, per capita and all that.
Yeah.
But yes, other than that, we've got per head of the population, we've got much
because
more.
we always hear the lefties always say things like, oh, we've got to take our fair share of these people because France takes a lot more. Yeah, well, France is a much bigger country and there's a lot more space in it.
We've taken millions in,
I know.
for goodness sake.
I know. Listen, you don't have to convince me. I'm saying that these people are idiots.
We've been talking about it for the last 10 years.
We have. Charlotte
It's
just
not
put up a
longer.
little migration report, I think. Was that from the newsletter scenario?
Yeah, it was just a snapshot of the news.
Just a snapshot, yeah. Just people saying, migration levels are far too high. I mean, even as we were saying earlier, even lefties are now kind of going, actually, maybe we've gone a bit far. Maybe we should actually put a bit of a clamp down on it all. But Al, good to see you. Thank you very much indeed. Al Mehmet there from Migration Watch telling us all about the news that we don't really want to hear, which is basically we've had something like 10 million people coming here over the last 10 years by hook or by crook. Many of them coming illegally. He was saying as many as 2 million now have come to this country illegally. And we just haven't got the room. We just haven't got the wherewithal, and we certainly haven't got the money to continue to pay the benefits that they all seem to want to have because they can. It's absolutely ridiculous. Totally mad. A couple of super chats, shall we do? Before we go to our next guest and the news, this one from Seaside Babe, June the 14th, the Swiss will vote on the no to 10 million. Is that right? Is there some kind of Swiss referendum going on about immigration? I didn't know that. But they do have immigration and all sorts of referendums all the time there. Uncle Joe says, I can't stand that creature. He's so despised in the UK. He'd be better off in a GIMP mask. I presume you're talking about Kier Starmer wandering about up in Downing Street there. Thank you very much for that. This one from Richard, who says, is he walking or mincing? Yeah, well, he does look very odd, doesn't he? We might play that clip again. Thomas says this, I noticed Gemma Collins mentioned Richard III in that new education video. Do you think she's a fan of the show? Well, she might be. We might play that, actually, coming back after the news. Mike is so cute, like a cuddly teddy bear, says Alison. That's very kind. Thank you. I try. That's all I can say. Right, shall we say a very good afternoon, or morning I should say, to Al Mehmet. Coming up, we're going to do Plank of the Week inside the show. Yesterday, you might have remembered, if you were watching, that we did Plonk of the Week within the show. We also did a kind of an extra part of that, so that if you want to see that, you will probably want to go onto our Substack. Sign up to our Substack, actually, and you'll get lots of really, really good things. You'll get my regular articles. You'll get my Ask Mike, which is a very popular thing that happens on a Sunday, where I sit with my dog Ziggy and we answer any of your questions. But what you'll also get is the extra sort of the Plonk of the Week after show, where we sat here yesterday with Nigel Evans. And today what we'll do is we're going to play about the first half of Plank of the Week inside the show, and then see who's won it, and the best part of the back end of it, shall we say, if you don't mind me saying so, for half an hour, will be on Substack and will also be on YouTube for members only. So we're trying to sort of build ourselves into a proper channel so that we finish everything by 10 o'clock, because soon what we're going to be doing is giving you the ability to watch other presenters doing other shows throughout the course of the day, which would be great. Coming up also, Bishop Kai Dura is here. He'll be giving us his thoughts of the week, and he'll also be giving us the Sunday sermon as well. First though, let's get some news with Fiona McLeod.
Happy Friday all. Fiona McLeod back with your news. Another bright day in the Westminster soap opera. Starmer is digging in, insisting a leadership contest would be chaos, while senior figures and dozens of his own MPs are busy holding the exit door open after Labour's hammering in the local elections. West Streeton's dramatic resignation has cranked the pressure up even higher on the whole sorry saga. Elsewhere, the government has issued new guidance confirming that gyms, hospitals and changing rooms should direct people to facilities matching their birth sex. Common sense prevails, and Chancellor Reeves is dangling summer VAT cuts on days out. What a time to be alive. A big thanks to Charlotte for looking after the mighty Pooch's domain this week. He will be back from his reprogramming break on Monday. Please remember to like and subscribe. See you later, alligators.
was just admiring her, as you do, you know. She only works on a Friday at the moment, but I'm pushing for her to come in more than once a week because I prefer her to Edward Hughes with the news, it has to be said. Bring on the Bish, says Tommy. Yeah, the Bish is coming. He's going to be talking to us any minute now. But before we do that, I've got a couple of little clips that I want to play, but we haven't played today so far. One of them is from Donald Trump, because Trump has been a bit quiet lately, actually. We haven't really heard too much from him. He's been talking about the Iranians. He's been talking about, you know, maybe I won't bother blowing them into smithereens. But this is why Donald Trump is as popular as he is, and this is why he's not like any other politician, because he talks like a normal human being. Here he is being asked about whether he's going to go to his son's wedding.
Are you attending your son's wedding this weekend, by the way? He'd like me to go, but it's going to be just a small little private affair, and I'm going to try and make it. I'm in the midst. I said, you know, this is not good timing for me. I have a thing called Iran and other things. That's one I can't win on. If I do attend, I get killed. If I don't attend, I get killed. By the fake news, of course, I'm talking about. No, but he's got a very person who I've known for a long time, and hopefully they're going to have a great marriage.
That's why we love Donald Trump, right? Because he's actually telling you that he's just like every other dad. He's got quite an important job, no kidding, and he's got a worry that he's got to go to this wedding. But, you know, if he goes to the wedding, it's going to be a bit of a nightmare, and he's kind of damned if he does, damned if he doesn't. We've all been there, right? If you're in a job which is something you have to do and you have to be there because you're either the President of the United States or a television presenter, stroke radio presenter, and you go, well, you know, I can't really make it. I'm not sure if, you know, if I don't make it, will I be in terrible trouble? If I do make it, will I be in terrible trouble? You know, that's the problem with all of it, I'm afraid. And that's why I think people love Donald Trump, because he just talks like an ordinary dad. And he's like, you know, I'm damned if I do. I'm in trouble if I don't. I don't know what I'm going to do, you know. And you've also then got to think about getting on with the, you know, the new daughter-in-law and all of that stuff. I mean, it's, you know, it's an absolute minefield, I tell you. Anyway, listen, it is Friday. It is a bank holiday weekend. It's going to be beautiful. Although, you know, Charlotte, they say it's going to be a beautiful weekend. I'm looking out the window, and it's not looking particularly beautiful. It's looking a bit dull, to be honest. I mean, I thought we were going to have like 24 degrees. It was going to be sunshine. It was going to be, you know, get the shorts on, get the legs out, you know, taps off, as they say in Scotland. I'm not sure if it's going to happen. Let's talk to our favourite bishop, who, of course, Bishop Kai Dewar. Kai, very good morning to you, sir. Well done. Nice to see you.
Good morning. Thanks for having me on. Good to be with you. I hope you've had a great week.
We've had an amazing week. You know, we keep looking at the numbers going, crikey. I think a week ago, Monday, we were on 19 million views. We're now on 22.5 million views.
What can I say? You're the most popular man in British broadcast.
It's going very well, but you're very much a part of it, of course, because people have just been sending me messages going, bring on the Bish, come on, let's get to it. You know, and we're very delighted, honestly, Kai, to have you as part of the family, because it's like feels like a family, you know. You were here last weekend, we met you, it was lovely. You had your weekend of revelry at the Unite the Kingdom rally. Despite the best efforts of the police and the government, it all went off terribly well. And now you're back. I've already had a message, no shorts, don't put shorts on, whatever you do. But listen, tell us about last weekend, first of all, I suppose, because you once again made a barnstorming speech, which was very much appreciated by everybody. And it was all brilliant, right?
We had a fantastic week. I had some incredible conversations with people backstage, and just before I was about to take the mic, they informed me that I needed to cut my time down because the police were being a real pain in the French say derriere about the timing of the event. You know, in the morning of the event, at about 5:30, got a message to say the police had just changed the start and finish times that morning.
Yeah,
pulling it forward 30 minutes just to cause chaos, and then bottlenecked the entire march through Trafalgar Square into Whitehall, bringing them very, very close to the counter-protest, who, I have to be honest, we had an incredible atmosphere, the family, you know, to see mums and dads out with their kids, grandparents, and even dogs dressed up in Union Jacks.
Yeah, saw that, yeah.
It was absolutely incredible. I actually saw the dog at one point where he was just sat watching Tommy on the big screen, which, you know, just tickled me pink that even our pets are now sick of the Labour government.
Yes.
But you know, it's countered by the fact that there was, you know, horrendous commentary and calls for Tommy and others to be assassinated.
Oh, dreadful! Yeah. I mean,
And of
apparently
course-
that wasn't any kind of breach of the law to ask for
No,
people
exactly.
to shoot him in the neck like Charlie Kirk. I mean, I couldn't believe that.
Yeah. So it was an incredible weekend. I was absolutely exhausted by the time I got home because Friday was a 20-hour day. and
Right.
Saturday was pretty
And
much
didn't you
close
have to
it.
get up at some god awful hour to drive back to Wales? Didn't you?
Well, I left. I actually decided to leave after everything was finished, rather than go to the after show. and all that kind of stuff.
Right.
So I left London at 7:00 on Saturday night. Unfortunately, I didn't get home until 8:00 Sunday morning because
Oh,
I managed to get all the way to the end of the M4. Stopped at Pont Abraham services for a cup of coffee at 1:30 in the morning, and promptly fell asleep in the car. So I woke up at 5 to 7, freezing cold, thinking I need to get home now.
Well, thank God. I thought you were going to say the car broke down, so at least that didn't happen.
No, we were perfectly safe, but freezing cold. And then, this week has been quite a sad week in comparison to last weekend because once again, organizations are trying to close churches and kick out viable and thriving congregations just to sell the building so they can get their hands on the
Wow.
money. And I'm heartbroken that one of my fellow priests this week has had to fight his denomination in the High Court just to try and stay the congregation stay in their building,
Right.
whilst the denomination is trying to take the building off them to sell the building, no doubt to pay their ridiculous salaries.
Yes. And did they then want to sort of demolish the building and build something else on the plot or something like that?
No, they just want to get possession of the building so they can sell it.
Right.
And it's one of the smaller Anglican denominations in the UK that is very much in decline. And it's just, we're here fighting for the soul of our nation, and our Christian faith is intrinsic to that. And you've got men like this that are trying to kick out a thriving congregation just to get their hands on the building because they want the money. And
Yeah.
of course, the last bit is my opinion of why they want to sell the building, but it just breaks my heart that society has fallen so far away from the morals and the values and the faith that we once held so dear. That money and wokery and all of this nonsense is placed above the cure of souls and a thriving congregation. So,
Yes.
Reverend Steve, who's in charge of the church down there in Exeter, we're praying for him, and we're just trying to get everybody to be aware that the court case is finished now, and the judges have reserved the decision, so everybody's waiting. But we want to see this church be allowed to continue.
Yes.
And that's the reality of it. You have an incredible weekend like we did last weekend, and then you come back to dealing with the reality of ridiculous immigration policies and stupid VAT cuts to theme parks. That, of course, that's going to benefit my wife and I tremendously now that we've got no kids whatsoever that would like to go to a theme park. And it's just this whole thing of how all of the institutions are so out of touch with the average man and woman in the street now. The average person that's working, trying to make a living for themselves, trying to grow in their faith, and churches that are trying to remain true to the tradition of the faith instead of this woke nonsense that's infesting everything, and people are being absolutely brutalized, whether it's the government that's doing it or it's a denomination or an institution. I just think this country needs a real clean sweep and a clean sweep of common sense leadership. We need a Churchillian figure for the 21st century, someone that can lead us back to the greatness that we once knew as a nation and as a people.
Exactly right. I mean, as Donald Trump would say, we're not dealing with Winston Churchill here when it comes to Kier Starmer. And they're so petty, aren't they? And I think that's what people really detest and resent about this government. It's not a party political thing. You can be a socialist. I can still have a conversation with you. You could want to, do things differently to the way that I would do them, and we can still get on. But they seem to have this kind of level of nastiness and kind of, almost laser, they say laser focused all the time, but sort of laser focused punishment, that they want to punish you for doing something good. If you, for example, raise some money to save a church, the next thing you'd get is a phone call from the Treasury going, are you going to pay some tax on that? You know, if you try and start a business, pay some tax. You know, if you try and take your kids somewhere, pay some tax. And this ridiculous idea that they're going to make everything easier for people because they're going to put VAT down to 5%. They're still taxing me for something that they shouldn't be taxing me for. You know, when I was working at Talk and I used to make a lot of money, I would give them hundreds of thousands of pounds a year on VAT, which they didn't earn. I earned it. I didn't see any of it. And I just generated money for them. And I find that really repulsive, you know?
Well, we are, ironically, we're in the United Kingdom now, are at a point where the United States was 250 years ago. And I know they've just celebrated their 250th anniversary on Sunday. But right now, what we have is a government that is very much like the Americans were complaining at the time. We're having taxation without representation because those in Parliament no longer represent the interests of the constituency that elected them, and certainly not the wider constituency, including those that didn't vote for the representation. And I think we've got to get to a point, I was talking to Liz Truss about it, we've got to get to a point where the entire system is brought down and rebuilt. But I don't think the average person in the street, I know you've been in the game long enough, and you'll understand what I'm saying. I don't think the average person in the street really understands how deeply entrenched the rot in the system is, how deep it goes, and the kind of fight that we're going to have to cut those cancers out of the institution and out of the system. We're going to go through, I think about Cameron's austerity, and that was pretty brutal. But for us as a nation to regain our footing in the world, we're going to have to pay some incredible prices for a short-term period to get us back to a system that was, as I like to say, pre-Blair, which was the beginning of the rot that we now see so deeply entrenched, and remove all of that lot. But we as a nation of people need to be willing to pay that price and make that stand, because if we can't now, this nation will be lost, and once it's gone, we'll never get it back.
No, because that is the problem, isn't it? You know, and this is why, I don't particularly want to get into a massive conversation with you about immigration, but, suddenly the government has said, look at us, we've cut immigration, isn't it great? And you go, well, hang on a minute, last week you told us immigration was our strength. You told us that was what we needed, and suddenly now you're crowing about the fact that you've cut it. Apart from the fact, of course, that they haven't cut it, because as we just heard from Alt Mehmet, 881,000 people have just entered the country in the past year, 20% of whom will work.
830.
Hey?
Telling you off.
Is he telling me off again? What have I done, Nora?
813.
813, sorry. He's literally sitting there just nipping away at me. 813,000, only 20% of whom will work. So the rest of them won't be working, and you and I will be paying for them.
What's Art's viewpoint? Because I've got a unique perspective on immigration. I don't think we talk enough about the fact that an overwhelming number of people enter the country legally and then stay past their visas and become illegal. So I'd love to know Art's statistics on that, but that's a conversation for another day.
Yes, very possibly so. Let us move towards the Sunday sermon while you're here, because for the first time this week, we're going to incorporate Plank of the Week into the show. So we've got a hard out, as we say here in the business, at 9:30. So why don't we have your sermon for Sunday and your message to the people of this great country of ours?
Thank you, Mike. I'll get on with it. Well, my brothers and sisters, there are hours in the life of a nation when history seems to hold its breath. Hours when the old certainties begin to crack, when the foundations beneath a people tremble, and when a civilization must decide whether it shall return once more to the eternal truths that gave it life, or drift further into cold and restless darkness that is forgetfulness. Now, I believe with all of my heart that we are living in such an hour, and it is precisely into such an age that the thunder of Pentecost, which we celebrate in the church this weekend, still speaks. Pentecost speaks directly into such an age. For Pentecost is not the story of comfortable religion. It is not the story of timid men whispering prayers behind closed doors while civilization crumbles outside. Pentecost is heaven invading earth with holy fire. It is the living God breathing upon frightened humanity and transforming weakness into courage, silence into proclamation, and ordinary men into heralds who would shake empires. The book of Acts tells us that when the day of Pentecost had fully come, the disciples were gathered together in one place, and suddenly there came a sound from heaven as of a rushing mighty wind, and it filled all the house where they were sitting. Then there appeared unto them cloven tongues like as of fire, and it sat upon each of them. Not merely warmth, not mere emotion, fire. The fire of God. The same fire that blazed before Moses in the wilderness. The same fire that descended upon Elijah's sacrifice upon the Mount Carmel. The same fire that purified Isaiah's lips. The same fire that led Israel through the night. And now that fire descended not upon a mountain nor a tabernacle, but upon a people. Weak people, broken people, fearful people. My brothers, my sisters, they were never the same again. Simon Peter, who once trembled before the accusation of a servant girl, now stood before the crowds of Jerusalem with the authority of heaven burning within his bones. The apostles who hid behind locked doors now strode into the world as men who feared God more than they feared death. And within a generation, Rome itself began to shake beneath the tread of spirit-filled believers. That, my brothers and sisters, that is Pentecost. And we desperately need Pentecost again. Not as nostalgia, not as religious theater, not as an emotional spectacle. We need the cleansing fire of Almighty God to sweep through this land once more. I mean, just look around yourselves. We have become a nation drowning in noise, yet starving for truth. A people rich in comfort, yet poor in spirit. We have filled our institutions with ideology while emptying our churches of conviction. We have educated generations to master technology, but forgotten how to kneel before God. And we have exalted self-expression whilst crucifying self-restraint. And now we wonder why anxiety devours our young, why communities fracture, why trust collapses, why the foundations tremble beneath our feet. A civilization cannot endure when it severs itself from the God who gave it breath. History testifies to it. Empires have risen in splendor and vanished into dust because moral decay always precedes national collapse. Look at the old empires. Babylon fell. Rome fell. Nations far mightier than ours disappeared into the pages of history because power alone cannot sustain a people whose soul has rotted within. Britain is not exempt from that eternal law. You see, no parliament can legislate righteousness into existence. No government program can manufacture virtue. No political slogan can resurrect the human spirit. My brothers, my sisters, only God can do that. Only the Holy Ghost can take dead hearts and make them live again. And so I say today that what Britain needs is not merely economic recovery, political reform, or cultural adjustment. We need revival. Not manufactured revival, not branded revival, not revival reduced to hashtags and conferences. We need real revival. The kind that makes men fall to their knees in repentance. The kind that restores fathers to their children and children to wisdom. The kind that drives corruption from public life because the fear of God returns to this land. The kind that makes churches thunder once more with holiness, conviction, sacrifice, and above all, truth. We need the fire of Pentecost to fall again upon our homes, upon our streets, upon our schools, upon our universities, upon our media, even upon our parliament. Yes, even upon parliament. For scripture declares that righteousness exalteth a nation, but sin is a reproach to any people. And no nation can long endure when it mocks the moral order established by Almighty God. We do not need leaders who are intoxicated with power while spiritually bankrupt within. We need men and women of courage, conscience, and humility before God. We need leaders who understand that they themselves stand accountable before a throne that is far higher than Westminster. Because every parliament eventually answers to eternity. Every lawmaker will one day stand before the lawgiver. Every nation will one day stand before the judgment seat of Christ. So, my brothers, my sisters, hear me clearly today. This message is not one of despair, for Pentecost is never despair. The glory of the gospel is this, that our God has not abandoned us. The same Spirit that descended upon the early church still moves today. The same Christ who breathed upon his disciples still reigns at the right hand of the Father. The same fire that transformed the ancient world has lost none of its power. God is still able to awaken this sleeping nation. He is still able to raise up preachers with burning hearts, still able to save the lost, still able to cleanse the broken, still able to restore what sin has shattered, and still able to breathe life into dry bones. And perhaps, the darkness of this hour is itself the mercy of God. For sometimes a nation must come to the end of itself before it looks upward once more. Sometimes the storm we are going through is what finally drives us to our knees. My brothers, my sisters, this is not the hour for cowardice. This is not the hour for embarrassed Christianity, not the hour for silent pulpits, not the hour for a church that whispers whilst the world burns itself to the ground. We must again become a people of prayer, a people of holiness, a people filled not merely with opinions, but with the Spirit of the living God. The early Christians did not conquer the ancient world because they possessed wealth or influence or institutional dominance. They conquered because they burned with the fire of God. They burned with conviction, burned with truth, burned with love for Christ, burned with the very fire of the Holy Ghost. When a people burn with holy fire, I promise you, darkness can never prevail against them. So let the wind of God blow across this kingdom. Let him shake the dead places. Let him expose the idols of our age. Let him cleanse the corruption of our institutions. Let him awaken his church. Let him call our prodigals home. Let him raise up saints, evangelists, fathers, mothers, watchmen, and warriors for truth. For if Britain is to endure, she must not merely become wealthier, she must become holier. If this nation is to stand, it must once again learn how to kneel before God. And so, my brothers, my sisters, I conclude with this plea to you. O God of our fathers, God of Wesley, God of Whitfield, God of the martyrs and missionaries, God who once sent revival fire across these islands, do not pass us by. Have mercy upon this realm. Stretch forth thy mighty hand over England, Scotland, Wales, and Northern Ireland. Let the cross of Christ stand once more at the center of our national life, not hidden, not apologized for, not reduced to ornament or memory, but lifted high again as the single hope of this nation. Raise up a Britain unashamed of the gospel, a Britain that honors truth, a Britain that defends the weak, a Britain that remembers God. May this land stand not beneath the banner of ideology, nor the flag of moral confusion, but beneath the banner of the cross of Jesus Christ. And may the fire of Pentecost fall again upon this nation until our churches blaze with holiness, our people burn with faith, and our land once more becomes a light in the darkness. For only a nation surrendered to God can truly endure. And may, my brothers and sisters, may Almighty God send his Holy Spirit upon us afresh and anew this day. In the name of the Father, the Son, and of the Holy Ghost. Amen.
Full as ever, Kai. Thank you. Brilliant. Absolutely fantastic stuff. It's going to be a big bank holiday weekend coming up. Everybody's going to be out enjoying themselves, hopefully, spending time with their families. So I wish you a beautiful weekend. Hope it's lovely down in Wales, and we'll see you soon.
Thanks, Mike. Have a great week. See you soon.
Good man. Kai Dewar, the bishop, the favourite bishop, of course, of this show, the official bishop of this show, the only bishop of this show, quite frankly. Now, coming up, something different for you. We're going to be doing this as going forward, which is a terrible phrase, I know, but we've got a very, very exciting panel coming up for Plank of the Week. We're going to start filming very, very shortly. First, though, we're going to get some news with Fiona McLeod.
McLeod back with your news. Another bright day in the Westminster soap opera. Starmer is digging in, insisting a leadership contest would be chaos, while senior figures and dozens of his own MPs are busy holding the exit door open after Labour's hammering in the local elections. West Streeton's dramatic resignation has cranked the pressure up even higher on the whole sorry saga. Elsewhere, the government has issued new guidance confirming that gyms, hospitals and changing rooms should direct people to facilities matching their birth sex. Common sense prevails, and Chancellor Reeves is dangling summer VAT cuts on days out. What a time to be alive. A big thanks to Charlotte for looking after the mighty Pooch's domain this week. He will be back from his reprogramming break on Monday. Please remember to like and subscribe. See you later, alligators.
Very much indeed. The greatest newsreader ever, I think, Fiona McLeod, isn't she? Now, let me move straight away to the next section. As you can see, are we going to play the intro to Plank of the Week?
I'm going to add that afterwards.
You're going to add it in?
Yes.
Oh, fascinating. See, this is all a bit new for us, right? Because normally speaking, what we do is we record Plank of the Week as a separate entity, but we've decided this week, we're going to start the show in the main show, which would normally be at 9:30. We're slightly late already, 6 minutes late, believe it or not. Then we're going to stop at 10. And we're going to end the show, and then we're going to finish Plank of the Week, which you'll be able to see, obviously, on our Substack and then on YouTube members. And then we'll release it later. But if you want to see it later, if you want to see it later today, you can go on and sign up to be one of our Substack members, for which you get a great deal of wonderful things, which you wouldn't get otherwise. So, the panel today, I'm delighted to say, we welcome back Paul Cox, who was last time here, I think, a month or two ago? Something like that?
Yeah.
For the first time, Tony Lapidus is here, I'm delighted to say. Very talented man, who I'm going to be leaning on an awful lot, Tony, by the way, through the show, because I played out last night, I don't know if you saw on Twitter, that really funny Tommy Robinson that you do. And I said, I'm delighted to say that Tommy Robinson, who doesn't get on with me very well, is joining us for Plank of the Week tomorrow. And he said you were brilliant. He said, I think he quite likes your impression of him. And I said, well, why don't you just come and join us, Tommy? He politely declined and said it was his son's birthday or something, so he's not going to be here. Marilyn Hawes is also here, but she's, as usual, got technical problems, and she seems to be either sitting in a dark room or has been unable to switch on. Come on, Marilyn.
Have you leave and come back? Because I can see her.
Can you leave and come back, says Charlotte, because she can see you, but you're not actually physically there. Anyway, welcome, guys. Thank you very much for joining us. We shall only
Morning,
keep you for
Mike.
about an hour, and I know that Tony, you've got many voices that you do, and I'd like to hear a few of them if I can today. But you are, I think, going to introduce us as James O'Brien, another man that doesn't get on with me terribly well, to nominate Paul's first nominee, who is Hannah Spencer.
Well, first of all, I just want to say that I'm grateful that you had me on, but I genuinely can I be heard? By the way, I really don't. Is the microphone working? Is it working?
Yes.
I genuinely don't see how anybody has a problem or why there is an outcry over her claiming that she can smell alcohol on some of the MPs in the Commons. To do so would be absolutely bonkers, wouldn't it? I mean, particularly as it pertains to some of the far-right fascists and thugs in the House of Parliament, up to and including, but not limited to, of course, Nigel Farage. But no doubt you would be the first to deny this claim, wouldn't you, Mike? You would be the first to deny it, to jump with your usual far-right alacrity and ideological zealotry just in the defence of British brown shirts in British clothing. Now, I just want to say, I would like to add that normally I would say that it is utterly discombobulating to call into question the integrity of such an honourable anti-fascist. But then again, hey-ho, spoiler alert, I am talking to a disgusting, vile, bilious, toxic dump of a human being whose only source of information is his Auntie Doris's Facebook page. But you crack on, mate.
Fantastic. It's not just the voice, is it? It's the sort of the stroking of the face and that horrible, kind of thing that he does. It's great, brilliant, absolutely brilliant.
Yeah.
Tony, great to see you. Thank you so much. Before Paul, we come to your nominee. Shall we play the clip? Can we do that? Oh, hang on. Charlotte's gone out the door.
Trying to sort Marilyn out.
He's trying to sort Marilyn. Can you play the Hannah clip?
Yes.
All right, let's have a look.
In Gorton and Denton, we have to pay full price for a pint. But here, for some reason, it's cheaper, and some MPs drink before voting, and that really shocked me when I came to Parliament, because it is our workplace. Now, does the Prime Minister agree with his own MPs who've defended their right to drink cheap alcohol at work? Or does he agree with me that MPs shouldn't be drinking on the job, given that we vote on huge things like the climate crisis, disabled people's rights, housing, child poverty? Policies out.
Can I firstly welcome her to our place, because I think this is her first PMQ. Look, there are going to be different views on whether people should be able to enjoy a drink here or not, but I think we can agree that the majority of people in this country want an economy that works for them, public services that are there when they need them, and every child going as far as their talent or ability will take them. But the only way to deliver that is through a Labour government, as we are doing. And I know the Greens think that their leader walks on water. It turns out that he just lives on water and doesn't pay his council tax.
I'm not sure whether I'm willing to accept, Paul, this new, kinder, gentler, funnier Kier Starmer. I find it slightly strange and weird. Suddenly he's reinvented himself as this guy that makes jokes and kind of smiles a lot and it doesn't look angry anymore. You know what I mean? It's very odd, isn't it?
I do know exactly what you mean. He's probably one of the most disingenuous people in the country. So we have no idea. He's demob happy, clearly, isn't he? He hasn't got his detractors jumping at him every day. He hasn't got to defend himself every day. He's basically on his way out, most of us hope. But look, Hannah Spencer there, incredible. I mean, first of all, it should be illegal to moan about subsidised drink. No one should ever be allowed to talk about the fact that subsidising drink is bad, particularly when there's so much tax paid on it anyway. But also, this is a woman who wants to ban drinking in Parliament, but legalise heroin on the streets. It's almost like they can't hear themselves, Mike.
Yeah.
It's like they've no idea. They've got this complete disconnect between A, reality, and B, what they're saying at any given point. She's like this. She's Parliament's answer to a children's BBC presenter. She's supposed to be this fun liberal, but she's a fun sponge. She's just sucking the fun out of all of it. She's turned into this 19th century temperance campaigner. We must ban drink. But the idea that we're going to ban drink and have heroin and crack cocaine available from Asda is absolutely ludicrous, Mike.
Yes. Do you think she might ban dogs next? And I mean, I don't wish to in any way cast aspersions on her cozying up to a certain community, but do you think dogs might be the next thing she wants banned from? Because I don't know whose dog it is, but occasionally when you see the chamber at the House of Commons, there's a guide dog that lies on the floor. And I wonder if she might have that ejected from the chamber to go, we don't want any dogs here either.
Yeah, she does. I mean, she does tend to lean towards the things that this aforementioned community really don't like, Mike, doesn't she? They don't like alcohol, they don't like dogs, etc. And she's made this a marriage made in Mecca, and she's going to have to absolutely stick by it. I don't think they'll ever get away with banning. I mean, you could probably ban alcohol in Parliament, but the idea that you could ever ban dogs in the UK is for the birds, essentially. Because the minute we accept that banning dogs is okay in the UK, Great Britain is dead, Mike. So I don't see that happening whatsoever. Also, it's really interesting. When she started speaking, somebody, and I still don't know who, shouted, "Does anyone fancy a pint?" So there's still some humour left in Parliament.
There is, and I saw Sarah Pochin sitting behind her. It's an interesting kind of geography of the House of Commons chamber, where you've got the Greens in front of the Reform lot, which is sort of cruel and unusual punishment, you'd have to say. Oh, look, Marilyn's here. Marilyn, well done. Well done.
Is Pooch there? He's messing about, isn't he?
Pooch is not. No, Pooch is on holiday, right? So just try and remain calm and try and keep still, for heaven's sake. Paul's just doing Hannah Spencer. Because the other thing that, of course,
Hannah Spencer.
No, well, somebody is.
She's nowhere near me.
Somebody is. I think she's got a same-sex partner, hasn't she? Which is entirely acceptable if that's what she wants to do. But yeah, apparently, when Kier Starmer referred to Zach Polanski living on the water and not paying his council tax, it turns out that he was living on a houseboat for quite a long period of time and not admitting to it. I mean, I wouldn't admit to it, to be honest, if I was living on a houseboat. Would you?
Would I? No. I mean, Cressida Wetton, actually, she won't mind me saying, because she used to talk about it publicly quite a lot, of this show's fame, actually,
yes.
Mike. She lived on a boat for about 7 years. And let me tell you, speaking to her quite regularly during those 7 years, she absolutely hated it. She never at any point made me believe that living on a canal somewhere in the UK was some blessed experience. It sounded like absolute hell.
Yeah.
But I can see the benefit for Zach Polanski, because he was essentially residing in a number of places, but most conveniently, he was telling people that he was at the boat, because you don't necessarily have to pay council tax if you're moving along every 2 weeks. So the man who wants everybody to abide by his version of the world and those rules isn't going to live by those rules, quelle surprise.
No, exactly right. Now, we've managed to get Marilyn Hawes hooked up to the technology, so well done, Marilyn. Welcome to Plank of the Week. We've got Ted Lapidus with us, who's a man of many parts. Tony Lapidus, sorry. Why did I say Ted Lapidus? Why did I say Ted Lapidus? There is a Ted Lapidus.
Yeah.
There is. I had
imitation of him as well.
Yeah, I had. Who did I have? Who was the guy that I had in the other day, the fashion guy, and I called him Ted by mistake.
Jeff Banks.
Yeah, I had Jeff Banks in, right? And I called him Ted Banks. There's obviously a Ted thing. I don't know why. And he went, "I'm not Ted Baker." I was like, "Oh Christ," Anyway, Tony, sorry. Marilyn's first nominee is Nadine Dorries. So give us a bit of your best Peter Hitchens introducing.
I don't think.
Hang on, no, it's not your turn to speak yet.
I thought you were asking me.
Unless your name's Tony or Ted, you're not allowed to speak. No, Tony is now going to introduce your nominee, who is Nadine Dorries. There you go.
Well, the impression would not be the same unless I put on these, of course. I mean, there are many people who have asked me recently whether I think that what she has done is whether she's got any principle left, or there's any principle left in the Conservative Party. Of course, you know that is to assume that there ever was. I mean, there never was there? I've always said, for decades, I've said, don't vote for what you want, vote for what you don't want, and you might get what you don't want. I mean, the whole premise is ludicrous. And not only that, she has, you all know, and your listeners probably don't know, that she was one of the key architects of this bill, this ludicrous bill, the online safety, total misnomer. And now she's done a total volte-face. Like all politicians, she simply goes wherever the wind blows. She makes a weathercock look like a signpost.
Very good, brilliant. I mean, we don't. Peter Hitchens doesn't come on this show anymore. I don't know why, but anyway, that's brilliant. Absolutely brilliant.
Excuse me, maybe that's because you get people to impersonate him who sound nothing like him. Have you ever thought about that?
I haven't actually, no, Peter. Sorry.
I'm sorry. I'm going to add as well that Marilyn, you're sitting there laughing at this impersonation. You run an organisation called Freedom from Abuse. This is total abuse.
I do.
Totally.
Yeah.
Over to you, Marilyn. Nadine Dorries. Why Nadine Dorries?
Why Nadine Dorries? I sort of regret doing it really, because apart from the online safety bill, which she, as you rightly said, she created that whole idea, and now she wants to repeal it. And she's now saying, oh, this is political game playing, really, wants to repeal it. Well, it's useless anyway, quite frankly, because it's not strong enough. I mean, Molly Russell, bless her little heart, who took her own life, I mean, he says the same thing. It's just not strong enough. It hasn't got any teeth. But then that's a bit like Nadine Dorries. I quite agree with you. She flip-flops according to where the wind blows. Now, why I also chose her was because she was our MP. And you never get to see her. And never, ever, she never replied to letters. She was too busy writing her book. She was too busy getting pissed in the local pub, of which I can't really comment.
Yeah. Strangely enough, so were you. Yeah.
I know. And but she also she's just a terrible MP. Good luck to Reform if they want her, because she just doesn't do the job, and rightly so. She would go wherever the wind blows her into the best seat in the House. So that's what she's like. And when we had the election, it was like, would Tories get in? Because in my xenophobic village, we would never have a Labour councillor standing.
No, I've got this terrible image now of Nadine Dorries without. I've got this terrible image now of Nadine Dorries without any teeth. That you just described. So,
not really like, but she just faffs on a bit. She faffs on and goes off and writes her book again. But I mean, she did absolutely nothing for anyone that lived around here in her constituency. She was awful. And the only one time I did get to see her, it was just when COVID had started, and she doesn't sort of follow the rules. Do you know what I mean? I went in to see her, and I was about about a metre from sitting across her desk, and she says, "Oh, I've just been to an old people's home today, and I probably got COVID," and she had. she didn't, and I'm sat there with her breathing all over me. I mean, I'm quite resilient, thank my God I didn't. But she gave it to her 85-year-old mother. And she was still doing work, even though she had been put in the front of COVID patients. I mean, she's bonkers. I mean, good luck to Reform. She won't do anything for them.
Well, I mean, she's one of the few Tories that's joined Reform and doesn't seem to be given a job. So I'm not quite sure what that means. I mean, they haven't found anything for her to do. But I quite like Nadine Dorries, I must admit. And have we got a clip?
Yeah, we've got the...
Let's have a clip. Let's have a look.
I think it's putting it quite, with the greatest respect, quite simply to say to protect young minds from harm. There's actually some very bad stuff goes on with young people on the internet. I'll just give you an example. So a lot of social media sites know if a 15-year-old girl goes online at 10 p.m. on a Friday night, they know she's on her own. And the algorithms which target her then are not good ones. And the increase in the suicide rate and the issues that we've had, and I can't say too much because I don't want to direct people to these places, but the dark web exists and there are some horrific stories. I served as 2 years as mental health minister before I became Secretary of State. And I can tell you, when you sit down with one set of parents after another over a period of 2 years, with broken parents that will never laugh again, who endure life without their child. I knew when I became Culture Secretary that I had to do something, and because the problem was getting worse day by day. And I think, unlike the campaigners that we have now who are campaigning for...
That's some pretty hideous wallpaper she's got there going on in the background. I mean, I would scrap that if I were her before she scraps the online safety bill, to be honest.
Well, she's all hot-headed.
It's almost as if posh people have got a special shop And I'm
Yeah.
not saying that they're doing. I just don't. They've all got the same, cherry chinos and weird wallpaper.
Yeah.
I don't understand where they're going, Mike. You're closer to that echelon of society than I am, so you get like a pamphlet through the door.
Listen, I haven't got any
more.
wallpaper. I can tell you now, I got white walls, got no wallpaper. I haven't had wallpaper since about the 70s, I don't think. That looks like it's been there since the 70s, isn't it?
Yeah, I think she probably lives with her mother. Actually, I think that's probably why it is. She's an old lady, but I don't know. But she's, what she's just described is what I do on my training courses all the time about kids and the parents. She's not saying anything there that I haven't already said. And if people came on the course, they'd learn a lot more. But that's why I went to see her about all this and about work I do, etc. And she didn't reply, and she was going, "Oh yes, I quite agree, absolutely." I must have written to her 6 times to see if she'd taken it further to the House. She did nothing. It's all hot air.
Yeah, I mean, the main reason we nominated her for this week, though, is because she invented the online safety bill. Now she wants to scrap it, which is the funny bit. Yeah. Now, going to go back to Tony Lapidus, who is going to give us his first nomination, which is Kier Starmer. But I think you're going to be introducing it in the style, are you not, of Douglas Murray?
Well, yes. I mean, first of all, I just want to say that the issue and the flaw, the fundamental flaw with this show is that it's called Plank of the Week, not Planks of the Week. I mean, there is an endless number of Planks of the Week, but of course, it has to be Kier Starmer, doesn't it? I mean, this is a man who has certainly sided with the death cults instead of the democracies, which is, of course, a book written by me. He's followed The Madness of Crowds, which is also written by me. He's responsible largely for the war on the West, of course, another book written by yours truly. And I must say, he's been doing this now for a long, long time, as have successive governments in contributing to the strange death of Europe.
Brilliant. Well, one of the things, I don't know if we've got the clip, have we? Have we got the clip? The North Korea, Kier Starmer this week managed to outdo himself by claiming that he'd done a trade deal with North Korea. Check this out.
Trade deals with the EU, but also with India, North Korea, and the United States. And I remind him of the value of those deals.
I'm not seeing that. Does that matter?
Before the deal with the United Mr. Speaker, before I answer that, I've just been handed a note saying that I inadvertently said we did a trade deal with North Korea rather than South Korea. That would be breaking news and not very good. So, before I'm referred to the Privilege Committee, can I correct the record, Mr. Speaker, in that regard? It was a slip of the tongue, but a pretty unfortunate one.
I mean, this comedy Prime Minister thing, I hate it. I really do. And also, it's fascinating that he has to be handed a note to say that he's inadvertently said North Korea, as opposed to actually realising himself that he mentioned North Korea, for heaven's sake.
The interesting thing, Mike, is he never heard all the gasps around him. I was watching PMQs this week, and as he said North Korea, all of his front bench looked at him as if he was mental, which is not that unusual, I guess.
Right.
But the rest of Parliament were kind of, we've done what? I think there were about 90% of Parliament thinking, well, that makes sense, actually. Of course, we've done a deal with North Korea. That's Kier Starmer all over.
Yeah, and in fact, Kim Jong-un, it's not that good. Play it again. Kim Jong-un, of course, was on the phone to him saying, "I think you're being a bit hard on the people there. It's not meant to be a dictatorship. Why don't you do what I do? It's actually nicer in North Korea than it is in Britain right now. If you're a citizen,
The return of the sausages. I think that was memorable.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Tony, tell us what you think of Kier Starmer. I mean, he's good for your business, I guess, isn't he?
Well, yeah, he is. I mean, he never stops providing comedy. I'm not doing this as Kier Starmer. This is actually me. This is not a very poor impression of Kier
Excellent.
Starmer. Yeah. What do I think of him? I mean, he's full of gaffes, isn't he? Even whether you like him or dislike him, you cannot deny that. I mean, the number of gaffes that he comes out with. I mean, he's the kind of person now that would just say nobody else will talk to me except Kim Jong-un. He's my only friend left. All my party have abandoned me. And then he goes to James O'Brien for some therapy.
But no, I will miss him when he's gone. It could be as early as, who knows, this month, next month, who knows. But I'll miss him because he's the gift that keeps on giving, much like Trump. Whatever you think of any of these people, some of them are just gems for comedy.
Yeah,
so I will.
They are. And the thing about him is, though, and I think this is unusual, and you in the business that you're in, you must pick up on all of the various different, like, little weirdo things that people do and how they speak. But, I've still never had a proper explanation from anyone as to how he could have mistaken the word hostages for sausages. It's impossible to. I mean, if you tried to be that weird, you couldn't do it.
You couldn't, no. And actually, that was something that came to mind when I was thinking about him as a plank of the week. I was thinking about how he has so many planks. One of them was to make the of his government was to make the NHS better for everybody in order to create jobs and save lives. And I think he's done that. Also, one of the many planks that he had was to save the sausages. Hostage. It was to save the hostages. And also, just somebody, I didn't actually know that. Somebody just sent me a note just now, just to tell me the actual word is sausage. Hostage.
It's brilliant. And this whole kind of narrative that he comes out with, nobody told me. They didn't tell me about Mandelson, they didn't tell me, and apparently they have to tell him when he's made a gaffe so he can correct it. He's managed to sort of perfect the art of never being responsible for anything while saying he's responsible for it all.
Yeah, and also it's also seeing him, the little moments, again, in the business that I'm in, of kind of observing people and doing impressions of them. When I see him standing even next to Donald Trump, like it's so funny to just watch him awkwardly standing there, just oh yeah, that's a great joke, isn't it? I mean, he obviously can't stand him. He's just got to stand there.
No, as you know that great moment as well where Trump dropped his papers and he just bent down. He just automatically bent down and picked them up and gave them back to him. Like, sorry, sir. Just horrendous.
Yeah,
brilliant.
Yeah. But these are the kind of things that I will sadly miss.
Yes, absolutely. Now we have to stop here, don't we? Before we go any further, is that right?
If you want to.
Well, no, I think we need to end the show, don't we?
Yeah. Okay.
Or do you want to run it on?
I want to run it on just for today.
You want to run it on just for today?
It's me.
Okay, Charlotte wants to run the show on, so we don't have to stop. All right, fine. Well, I'm going to then do my first nomination, which is, of course, the Chancellor of the Exchequer, Ms. Rachel Reeves. And we can only, I suppose, start off by showing that clip from White Van Man when she was out and about at a petrol station the other day. Should we do that?
Say to the Chancellor that Mr. Speaker has checked the ministerial code and it makes clear that
I love our country, and one of the things about our country is good manners. Not very British.
Kier Starmer out. Also, get Labour out. Get Kier Starmer out. Nigel Farage. You are Nigel. We're going to get arrested. We've got English flags on here, Rachel. We're going to get arrested. You're ruining the country. Get Kier Starmer out. Look, England flags. You're useless. Labour parties are useless.
I love our country, and one of the things about our country is good manners. Not very British. The news about.
She really wasn't happy there, was she? But I mean, what did she? Can you imagine afterwards, right? It'd be like that scene from the thick of it. She gets back in the car. Man, that was a disaster. Who came up with that bloody idea? You complete morons, But she has attempted this week to sort of come back out of the closet, hasn't she? Because she hasn't been seen for a while. And her great idea was to, first of all, tell all supermarkets to control the price of eggs and bread and milk so that people could afford to buy them. Then everybody went, that's a stupid idea. She went, oh, right, OK, I'll come up with something else then. I know. Why don't you give some people a load of money off going to Legoland, as if that's where everybody goes? I'm not going to Legoland this weekend, so I won't be saving any money, unfortunately. And it's just, she just gets worse and worse and worse with every week that passes, doesn't she?
Yeah. It's terrible, really, isn't it? There should be a sort of minimum qualification to be A, Prime Minister, but B, definitely Chancellor. If you're making decisions that affect the fiscal direction of a whole nation, you should be able to at least, put a sentence together would be great. Have a clear understanding of fiscal responsibility and economics would be brilliant, at least to GCSE level. And you're absolutely right. She just lent into communism when she ran out of ideas. And then which is a little bit what this summer holiday stuff's all about. You know, saying let's send the poor children to Legoland, and we'll put them on the bus as well. All throughout August, they're giving kids free bus travel. Can you imagine being a parent who's saying, "Well, we're going to put you on the bus because it's free. We're not going to take a car anywhere, and we're going to go to this local amusement park on the bus." She's just making it worse, even for kids. She's punishing kids.
Yeah.
This is ridiculous.
Well, no, apparently it's already free for most kids to go on the bus anyway. So, I mean, you know, and if you don't live in a major city, there aren't any buses. So good luck finding one, to be honest.
No, but she has got a new
seems
haircut.
completely disconnected, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Got a new haircut. Anyone notice that? I did, being a woman, got a new
Being
haircut.
a woman, yeah. Well, but the thing about her hair is it changes colour quite a lot, doesn't it? I mean, whoever's doing the colour on it doesn't seem to have the same bottle every time they do it because it looks different every time she turns up.
Oh no, she is horrendous. She's just, well, have you seen the house that she lives in as well? It's massive, huge, great house. And she even claims for the heating. Oh yeah, we can do that, can't we? You know, we can claim the heating. I mean, it's massive. It's like a mansion that she lives in.
They all do. I mean, all these bleeding politicians live very well, and not only do they live well, but we pay for it. You know, remember Jackie Smith? You know, we paid for her barbecue, furniture. We paid for the barbecue itself. We even paid for her husband's porno films that he was watching while she was in London. You know, and you know they've never paid for anything in their lives. I mean, I was saying this the other day. Jess Phillips was on what's his face, Robert Peston's show the other night, having a go at Richard Tice, saying, "Well, if somebody gave me £5 million, I wouldn't have to worry about working." And then I had a quick look at her expenses, and she's claimed £1 million in expenses in 4 years. And I know that people will say, "Oh, that's because she's employing, you know, loads of people, whatever." But the point is, it's still £1 million of our bleeding money, you know.
And what does she do? Nothing. She's now, you know, standing on a high horse, isn't she? Just sort of like.
I see what you did there.
Yeah, she doesn't take any accountability for what she didn't do.
Yeah.
When she
I said last week she's the only MP that's resigned from the job in the cabinet in order to run at the 340 at Haydock. You know, that would be unkind, obviously, wouldn't it? We don't want to do that. Because I mean, that was the other thing about Rachel Reeves getting heckled by the white van man. Apparently, Tony, that was misogynistic and terrible. And we shouldn't be encouraging that sort of behaviour because it's not good British manners.
No, it's not good British manners. Well, the thing is, actually, when I watched that, she would be my plank of the week just because when I watched it, what really bothers me about those kinds of videos is that it's the forced smiles of politicians, even in the most uncomfortable situations, which kind of completely disconnects them. I would rather see, for example, again, I always preface by saying whatever somebody thinks, and I'd way rather see the kind of human side and the actual human reaction. But this forced smile that there's like a microchip in their head saying, no matter how uncomfortable you are, no matter what someone says to you, smile.
Yeah.
And I just find that it's so disconnecting. It's one of the reasons why certain other politicians really can connect with people way better. And I just think that they're kind of out of date and they're not aware of it. When you're being heckled, give some human reaction, not kind of some robotic forced policy.
Yeah. Well, they've obviously all been given the same lecture, haven't they? Because Starmer's now doing that as well. Well, let's finish up with another one of her sitting on the empty bus. She managed to find a bus to sit in, and there's nobody else on it. And here she is talking about what a great idea it is to go for free.
Hi TikTok, I want you to be the first to know that this summer for kids aged between 5 and 15 there's going to be free bus travel in England, and this is just one of the things that we are doing to help people with the cost of living in these uncertain times.
Does she think
just
TikTok's
one of the
a
things.
Hey? I said, does she think TikTok's a person? She said, "Hi, TikTok."
Yeah.
I know what she's doing. Obviously, she's talking to a wider audience, but it's as if she's never done anything like that before.
No, she's just discovered it. And we're the first to know now. We're just
what's that all about? You want you to be the first to know. Do you know what this social media thing is? The first to know. You know.
Yeah.
Also, by the way, I thought TikTok was banned.
I'm just running around to my pals saying there's now free travel. I'm the first to know. Do you know about it yet? I know. You don't.
I know, yeah.
You need to
I've
get
been
on
told
TikTok
personally.
if you wanna
Rachel Reeves. Yeah, Rachel Reeves told me personally I'd be the first to know. Brilliant. But I thought TikTok was banned, right? They're supposed to be not allowed to use TikTok on the parliamentary estate, but now they're all on TikTok. How does that work?
But she also says the patronising. She's so look at us being clever and kind, you know, these uncertain times, the uncertain times that they've created.
I know,
It's
you're
also-
exactly right.
it's also class appropriation. They always think if they're going to connect with people, they've got to get on a bus or stand outside a garage.
Right.
You know, it's the. I mean, I think she comes from a fairly working class background. Actually, I don't know for sure, but she certainly. That's definitely an empty bus. That was not a serviced bus.
No.
There was no youths on there listening to their music out loud,
Right.
or just like a whole cadre of foreign people shouting in their own language. There was none of that going on. You get on the bus. There was no fear. If I'm on the bus, I'm always slightly scared.
Yes.
There's always an element of fear.
Do you know what I'm
There was
scared
none
of
that
when I
going
get?
on. She's sitting there with her legs crossed, relaxed, and thinking that's not the 513 from
No.
Camden to Shoreditch.
No. Do you know what I get scared of when I get on a bus is the dreaded words, this bus is on diversion. And you go, what? And you go to the front and you go to the driver and say, which way are you going? I don't know. I said, well, which diversion are you taking? I don't know. He said, I just follow the signs. And I'm going, well, how do I get off now? Do I get off, you know, are you going to where I want to go? Or where are you going? It's like some kind of magical mystery tour on a bleeding bus. You don't know where it's going to end up.
She should also go and put herself on a school bus. Then she'd see something about lack of manners.
Oh, my God. Yeah, absolutely. Right. Anyway, let's get on. Paul, back to you. Josh Simons, the world's worst MP.
Yeah, Josh Simons of Makerfield fame, the man who stepped aside to allow Andy Burnham, the King of the North, the
King of
great
the North.
saviour, who is absolutely no different to anybody else. But the one thing about Josh is he's a bit of a shallow bumhole, if I could say that on YouTube.
I think you can.
This is a man who sat at the helm of Labour Together, the very, very sort of think tank that put Kier Starmer into the Labour Party and fast-tracked him to his premiership. Also, alongside Morgan McSweeney and Peter Mandelson. Anyone heard of him recently? Who said, we're going to... It was almost like a Trojan horse. These people selected Kier Starmer, I assume for his charisma, put them in under Corbyn, and then tried to make sure they could change the Labour Party. And this is what we've got. But Josh himself, he stuck two fingers up to Makerfield here. He said, you know what, you only elected me less than 2 years ago, but I'm going to back another horse now, because he got in backing Kier Starmer. Since he's been involved in scandal, obviously with the Telegraph journalists and the things he got up to there. And Labour Together are not exactly... a very clean think tank, shall we say. And now he's backing a different horse. Now he's saying, oh, no, it's not Kier Starmer I like anymore. It's Andy Burnham, the great saviour. And it's the whole arrogance of the situation. In Makerfield is sort of 60% Brexit voting, 97% white, largely Christian, like 1% Muslim. This is not a constituency that is really sort of this ultra-progressive Labourite area. And they seem to think that he can just step aside. And it has been Labour ever since whenever, the 90s, the 80s, whenever the constituency was formed. And they just think they can step aside, and in comes Andy Burnham. Now, I think Andy Burnham's got an incredibly good chance, but so has Kenyon. You know, I think there's a situation now where Josh Simons and Andy Burnham could literally implode the whole Labour movement of this era.
Yeah,
and
I mean, I just for the fun, I just want to see Burnham losing, just because he's so sure he's going to win. I don't really care one way or the other, but I just think it'd be really funny if he stood there and lost.
He stands for nothing. He's another nowhere man, isn't he?
Yeah.
Every single one of these people we've talked about, even Nadine Dorries, we have no idea what they mean or stand for. I know it's an old adage, but we all refer to Jeremy Corbyn, who I'm no fan of. But at least all of us understood what Jeremy Corbyn stood for, because you could look at an interview from 1983 and one from 2013, and he was saying exactly the same things that Wally. But at least we knew what he stood for. All these other career politicians who are just flapping around in the wind, really messing our lives up, don't stand for anything. And Andy Burnham is part of that cadre. He simply is. I mean, he doesn't know whether we should rejoin the EU or whether we should stay out of the EU. He doesn't. He's a friend of the lady penis people, but then he's not. We don't know what he stands for.
I have to jump in here. You're being slightly unfair. Andy Burnham stands for increasing the homeless population of Manchester city centre.
Well, this is the other thing. You know, people that I know.
We know he stands for that.
people I know in Manchester say that he's not at all popular in Manchester, that people don't think much of him at all.
Can I go on about it? He is my plank.
He is your plank, yeah, absolutely. Well, in fact, Josh Simons was the original plank, but it turned into Andy Burnham. And also,
Sorry, yeah.
Tony, you were going to introduce Andy Burnham as Donald Trump, I think, weren't you?
I was actually. In fact, I can't do it without this.
Can I?
Well, firstly, he's a low energy guy. He's totally low, and he's low IQ, by the way. I mean, you go around Manchester city centre, you go around the Arndale or Market Street or Piccadilly, and you just see, I mean, what the hell has happened? No. And, he was, he's such a disgusting person. And, so think of it. I ended 400 wars and I built a ballroom, and Andy Burnham would not be invited. And he's now ready to stab Kier Starmer in the back. It's so disgusting. And that I will say, and you know that better than anybody. And the thing about Kier, I used to like him, he was okay, but no, he's not Winston Churchill. No, he's a weak, pathetic guy. And Andy Burnham's worse when you think about it.
Brilliant.
Low energy,
Very
young
good.
person, low IQ.
Low IQ. Marilyn, over to you.
Okay then. Well, I don't call him King of the North. I call him the Pratt of the Pennines, because that's what he is. I mean, he really is. I was taken when he went out running the other day with his very high cutaway shorts. Did you
like
notice
those?
that? With his butt cheek nearly showing.
Well, he only wore them one day, didn't he? He changed the next day.
Yeah, and got in a car about half a mile down those shorts.
There's almost one testy on show there if you look closely.
Yeah.
But I mean, can anyone tell? Because I
Don't
don't.
cover for men's health.
Manchesterism. I don't get what that is. Where's that word come from? I think it's in the dictionary. Manchesterism. But his borrowing is obviously truly Labour, because I've got the figures here. His borrowing went up from 289 million to 1.6 billion, and Manchester is the most indebted council in the whole of the UK. And when you read, and I was reading a lot of comments, I agree, he is extremely unpopular. And even his allies have said, he's down in the weeds, which is not, that he's got to do a lot more thinking.
Yeah.
He's got little or nothing to say about foreign policy or defence.
Yeah.
The barest minimum. His allies have said he needs to be more active, that he's just done cosy little local council, local news stuff. But I mean, I'm not being funny. Assumption makes an arse out of you, doesn't it? I mean, he's assuming that he's going to be the next Prime Minister. He's already dishing out jobs for them, isn't he?
Well, exactly. I mean, this is a guy who was a Blairite, right? Then he was a Brownite.
Yeah.
Then he was a Milibandist. Then he was a Corbynist. Then he was a Starmerist, whatever that is. And so he's had 5 different leaders that he's been, supposedly associated with. And nobody knows what he thinks about anything.
No, he's another one that I've written to many, many times who don't get a reply from. I don't know why people he's so great, because yes, he did supposedly did a great job sorting out the buses, but what he forgot to do with the buses, because it's causing an awful lot of people that have got impaired vision and blindness, he's also put all these cycle lanes in, so the blind people can't get on the bus because they've got to cross the cycle lane and they can't see the.
Well, whenever I've got a son at uni up there, and whenever I've gone to Manchester, the roads are complete gridlocked. You can't go anywhere. You can't get a cab anywhere. You're better off just walking. And it's always raining as well, which doesn't help. So last time I went there, I had to buy a raincoat.
You go down the wrong road, you get a ticket. You go down the wrong road by accident, you get a ticket.
Yeah, right. Yeah, it's an absolute nightmare. But also, why does he dress the way he dresses? He looks like he's an extra from New Order, doesn't he? And it's like, would you not buy, if you're going to be Prime Minister, would you mind buying a shirt with a collar at least, and maybe a tie? But look, what's all that, the round neck stuff? I mean, he's not young, is he?
Because he's relaxed and chilled, Mike. This is what Andy Burnham is. He's a man of the people. He's an absolute man of the people. And as we all know, men of the people don't wear collars. And can I ask Marilyn a question, actually? Because every time we talk about someone new, she said she wrote to them. Marilyn, do you just write to MPs just in your spare time?
Right.
And if so, what are you saying to them? Are you just saying, hi, would you fancy a glass of wine?
No. So Andy Burnham, I've now got my work hat on now. Andy Burnham hate gangs, right? He did absolutely F all about it. He knew, he couldn't not have known. And the rapes in Manchester have gone up from 16,000, right? And now 10 years on, it's gone up to 70,000. So he's mayor of Manchester. He knew about Rochdale. He did nothing, and on those grounds alone, he should not be. So what I do, I campaign. I'm not a campaigner, but I do. I've been into Westminster more than a blooming fiddler's elbow. Going, they're based all a waste of time. They say, "Oh yes, I want to meet you," blah blah blah, and they don't do anything. They don't do anything. I was on a board with Kier Starmer. I know how flaky he is, and that was to look at the victims' rights bill and to do a white paper for people that are being trashed in court. And this is when he was director of prosecutions. And then after 4 meetings, there are about 10 of us, he then shoves off and gets onto the coattails of Jeremy Corbyn, never had the decent manners to say, "Oh, I've moved on now." And we were doing all this for people that were being like victims of children, victims or adults being raped and were being absolutely ripped apart in court by barristers. So if I hear, I sometimes do appeal for people whose case is absolutely unduly lenient, and I will write letters. I don't get paid for any of this stuff. I just don't like injustice. So there is a lot of, I've tried and get something.
And would
decent.
you say that what percentage of people that you write to actually write back? Yeah, in terms of MPs.
Oh, they write back because they have to write back to you within 28 days. But it's just a load of garbage. It's just bills. I mean, there's nothing. You read it, and I think they've got an ology in how to avoid answering a question. Is you get 2 sides of A4 that tells you absolutely nothing. It's total bilge. And they don't know. It's obviously a skill they've got. There is obviously some Westminsterology degree that you have to take.
Well, for all you know, in this day and age, it's not even written by them. It's possibly just AI written, and it's just a kind of template.
Oh, probably. Oh, you're quite probably right. But it's just nonsensical. It really is. But also up there in Manchester, they've got the highest child poverty rate. So he's doing a great deal of good up there, isn't he?
Oh, yeah, brilliant. He's got a nice, but judging by the house he came running out of, by the way, he's got a very nice big house there as well. Yeah. But there we are. Right, now, listen, we're running slightly late and slightly behind. So, Tony, I'm going to come back to you because you've got Diane Abbott to do. And as Diane Abbott.
Yes. So, I would like to do something a little bit different. And I want to nominate... The plank of the week is myself. And the reason for that is because if you take the cost of nominating planks to not yourself and you add them up and divide them by 10, you get a budget of billions of pounds. And that will cost... It will cost... £5 billion. So we are saving. Yes, I'm the plank of the week. Yes.
Brilliant. Of course, we live in such strange times that Diane Abbott now seems like quite an intelligent person. She absolutely ripped Starmer to shreds, didn't she, the other week over the whole Mandelson thing. And every time she now appears on TV, she seems a lot more intelligent than anybody else. So I don't know whether there's been some kind of paradigm shift.
Well, plank of the week is a promotion for her.
Absolutely. But it is amazing, isn't it, that she's now kind of considered to be a kind of elder stateswoman or something,
Well, with intelligence, it's not hard to beat, really, is it? I mean, they're all a bunch of numbnuts.
They certainly are, as you know from dealing with all of them. Yeah, I mean, it's not a very high bar, but they've lowered the bar quite significantly, I think, over the course of the last 2 years since they've been in. They've been completely and utterly useless. I just can't even imagine what comes next. If Andy Burnham does end up being in charge and he shuffles the pack and ends up with a completely different set of people, would he keep, for example, my next nominee, which is Bridget Phillipson? Who I don't know. I'm not going to ask you to do her, as it were, Tony. But Bridget Phillipson, for some bizarre reason, decided to enlist the help of somebody who everybody knows is an educational sort of superhuman by the name of Gemma Collins. Have you got the clip? Let's have a look.
So if you were Education Secretary for the day, what would you do?
I'd sit there
I'd invite GMB down and I would do a whole morning shout out. Everyone waking up for school, tune in to me, the GC. All I'm asking you to do is learn whilst you're there. Now, go to school, honeys, go to college, go to uni, have a fabulous day and just be fabulous.
Just be fabulous. Now, this is Gemma Collins more at home in what she normally does for a living. Have a look at this. I know that's probably cruel, but it's just, I'm sorry, I can't stop watching it. But I mean, of all the people that, if you were the Secretary of State for Education to go, I know, let's launch a programme for people to study more and to think more seriously about what they do at school, you wouldn't ever come up with Gemma Collins, would you?
No.
No, I'm not
It's
sure
more
what the
class
thought process
appropriation, isn't it?
behind
They genuinely think.
Her parents took her out of state school and put her in a private school for the last few years of her life, didn't they? Because she was being bullied at school. What a surprise.
Really? Yeah. What, because she was so stupid?
Well, no, she just kept falling through stages, didn't she? So how can you resist, really? That wasn't the first time. You can see she's well practiced in it.
I've done that. I've fallen off the stage.
That doesn't surprise me.
Have you ever fallen through
I
one?
I was sober, Mike.
I don't believe that's the for a minute. You know, that's the first lie of the day from Marilyn Hawes. I was sober. I don't think so. But yeah, I mean, but Bridget Phillipson, surely to God, hopefully, if there is any kind of reshuffle, she gets kicked out of any kind of cabinet job, doesn't she?
Yes.
Well, I don't know, because, I mean, Andy Burnham is just Kier Starmer, but without a collar. So we're going to end up with very similar thinking. I think that maybe, but, you know, Ed Miliband will stay, won't he? Because he seems to be the perennial stain in the cabinet. So who knows? She might get promoted. She might even be Chancellor. Who I have absolutely... I mean, the idea is that Rayner becomes Chancellor under Andy Burnham. So we could be praying for people like...
Oh, my God.
Bridget Phillipson.
I mean, Angela Rayner can't add up because we can see that from her tax return that she seems to struggle with. She's never quite sure exactly how much money she owes to HMRC.
Well, this is the first era of politics I've ever heard the term vibes being used. And with Angela Rayner and with nearly everybody, Andy Burnham included, people keep saying these are vibe politicians. You just gotta catch their vibe, which might change at any point. I don't want vibes. We need restoration in the UK. We need repair. That's what we need. I was listening to the Bishop earlier when I was sat in the green room, and I was thinking, we need this guy in charge.
Yeah.
Terrifying, but would help.
Yeah, absolutely. A bit of faith, perhaps, for all of us.
Absolutely. But, yeah, no, I mean, they're running out of people, though, aren't they, to put in position because they were all sort of resigning and, you know, it's very strange. You don't have proper politicians anymore, do they? They're all career politicians.
They really are. But they're no good at it. I mean, I've just seen here, by the way, Tony, I'm sorry, that you were going to introduce Bridget Phillipson as Piers Morgan. So we've got to have this because he used to be my boss.
Oh, I actually, what I was going to do was just comment on the on the whole video thing. I mean, I noticed. I mean, it's absolute claptrap, isn't it? It's claptrap, right? I mean, what if I want any advice from her, right? It will be how to fall through a stage or fall flat on your face on ice. I mean, you know what really bothered me? You know what really bothered me about that video? You saw it, right? You saw that. She said that she said that she'd wake up, she'd tell everybody to wake up and tune into GC. Well, first of all, I don't know who she thinks she is telling anybody to wake up. That's my job. I write books on that and I say wake up, so wake up. And also, in addition to that, did you notice that when she said GC, she's not even smart enough to finish the sentence? GCSE, she didn't know how to say it. So no, we don't want her. If you don't want to give advice on falling through a stage, shut up with your claptrap.
That's very good. That is very good. Have you ever run into Piers? Does he know you? Because I'm sure he'd probably, I mean, because he's so full of himself, he'd probably quite enjoy that.
Well, yeah, he has shared my stuff a few times. I've done a few impressions of him. And also the other day he followed me. I did the one of, it was Kier Starmer in therapy with James O'Brien. Where it was just Kier Starmer, I don't know why I took the tub job. I just want to, and it's just James O'Brien basically saying, "Hey, the whole country's behind you, mate. The whole country. I hear them every day on my radio show. Everybody else, I just come find to Idiots Corner."
So he likes that, and he likes some of the other ones that I've done of him. I've done ones with him and Tommy Robinson in the absence of that interview actually happening.
Yes.
But yeah.
Your Tommy Robinson's brilliant, by the way. And I mean, I know that we didn't say that you should do your Tommy Robinson, but I mean, your Tommy Robinson that I put out last night is hilarious. Really, really funny.
Thank you very much.
It's that bit that you do at the end, you know.
Yeah, well, it's those little things you need to catch on to because he's from Luton. Yeah? Now, he says that I'm brilliant. Yeah? So I appreciate when I went on Piers Morgan, yeah, I held up a book. Now, this is about free speech. Yeah? So I'm going to hold up this book. Yeah? William Gladstone said that without this book, until we get rid of this book, we will never have peace in this country. Yeah? Ronaldo's a genius. Yeah? And that's it.
It's brilliant, absolutely brilliant. And you know what's funny is because since I've started watching your stuff, and you know, because I obviously can't listen to talk for obvious reasons, particularly after 10 o'clock in the morning, I put on LBC on the way home usually, and O'Brien sounds more like you than you do, you know. And you've got to go in. Is he actually now just following the script from Tony because he now sounds like Tony doing him every day?
Yeah. I get tagged with that a lot. Like when he comes up with lines, I get told, I think LBC should start paying me to fill in for him. I mean, I really do. I mean,
Well, you'd be better than Lewis Goodall, for heaven's sake. I mean, he bores the arse off everybody.
Yeah, I really think that they should consider it, but I'm not sure. I have had messages from LBC people, without mentioning any names, saying that they love it, but I don't know that he does anymore. He used to when I first did my Brexit impression. I think he did, but now I think he's had just about enough, right?
Yes, I'm not sure he could laugh at himself, to be honest. You know, there we are. My final nominee for the end of the show is not a person; it's a thing, and it's HS2. Which came in, hit the buffers this week again, even though the wheels have not actually been put on any of the trains that they've got because they don't have any trains and they don't have any track. But somehow they've managed to spend £100 billion plus to put a sort of a network together, which is running around the same kind of area that there already is a train track. And I don't quite know how they've managed it. They bought a load of houses from London to sort of in Manchester and over to Leeds, and now they don't really need those houses, and now they're trying to sell them back to the people they bought them from for a lot more money.
Have you considered that the person presiding over the project is Diane Abbott, clandestine?
Well, now you're telling me something I didn't know, but that makes a lot more sense.
Breaking news. You're the first to know, TikTok.
The woman, and I mean, I like that. It's what I like about this show is that I'm always the first to know about what's going on. But yeah, I mean, it would make a lot more sense that where they've got probably two railway tracks, one of which is thicker than the other, you know, and that's why they can't make it work. But you know, they've managed to, as I say, they've managed to create nothing and spend £100 billion on it. It's literally like, you know, a fart in the wind, and you've kind of gone, sorry, you know, in any normal world, you'd go, sorry, what have we got for that? You know, can we go and look at it? There's nothing to look. There isn't anything.
Again, if she is presiding over and one train track is thicker than the other, then it is absolutely a representation of her. It would just be thicker and thicker. It'd be Abbott and Abbott, wouldn't it? So again, yes. I really am starting to believe that she is presiding over this. That you cannot come up with numbers like that without talking about billions divided by billions. Without it being.
Yeah. And where does it go? Where does it go? Well, we don't know. Yeah, we don't know where it goes. We think it's going to start somewhere near Birmingham. So if you want to go to Birmingham, it's not going to take you there. It's just going to take you somewhere near Birmingham. And then, does it go to London? No. It goes somewhere near London. Oh, okay then. So if you want to go from somewhere near London to somewhere near Birmingham for more money than it costs you to go from London to Birmingham on a normal train, this one's for you. Huh?
Imagine explaining that to a grown-up.
Yeah.
Imagine if we allowed grown-ups to run the country and we said,
yes.
Look, by the way, we need to talk to you about this infrastructure project. It's absolutely mental, but bear with us. In fact, you can go to the moon and back for less money.
You can. They said that this week, that the Artemis mission to the moon was cheaper. 79 billion for that, 100 billion to go nowhere in Britain. On a train that doesn't exist, that hasn't been built yet, that they haven't even bought any rolling stock for. I mean, it's right extraordinary. And you imagine, I mean, I always say this, that, you know, with sort of meetings and things. I mean, Wes Streeting I had as a nominee as well, but he's kind of, he's so yesterday's man. You know, he's now dropped out of a race that isn't on. having said he wasn't going to go into it, and now having then decided to go into it, he's now dropped out of it. It still isn't happening. And you kind of go, what if you actually, maybe put him in charge of HS2, maybe that would work. But you go, imagine being in that meeting where they're all sitting around going, right, what are we going to do? We're going to build this really, really fast train network. Actually, there's an update. It's not going to go very fast because that's too expensive. So that's actually slower than the main train that you go, what? Get out. You just get up, get lost.
If this was a private enterprise and you got that many billions of pounds from private investors and delivered nothing, chances are you'd end up in prison. But for whatever reason, if you do that with the public's money, we all just go, oh, of course, it's a national infrastructure project. Of course, it's 50 million times more than it's supposed to be. We never get that money back. And where is it? I mean, the Bats have got a tunnel. Yeah, the Bats are okay. And apparently, I was told this by somebody whose son was a contractor working for HS2, and she said that he's told me, my son, that basically if you put an invoice in to HS2, you just triple it, and they pay it anyway. That's where the money's gone, because just put a bill in, and they won't even know who's this guy, Paul Cox, and what did he do? I don't know. Just pay him. But they'd probably pay you.
Well,
Brilliant.
maybe Rachel Reeves.
You should get involved, Paul.
I'm going to. I was, as you know, Tony, I was a senior consultant on there for several months, and my bill is about 68 grand. So
there you go.
I'll take us all out. I'll take us all out.
Triple it.
Yeah.
Tripled.
Yeah. Since it was my idea, I get to order the starters. I think that would be fair. Right. So, I mean, normally this is not a very democratic process, but I'm going to do it this time. Who would you nominate as your plank of the week, each of you? Marilyn first.
Well, I'd obviously go for Andy Burnham.
All right. Okay. Tony?
It was Rachel Reeves. Just that heckler, her reaction to the heckler was just. I also loved how she almost kind of started to sound like Kier Starmer as well in her reaction.
Yeah.
I love this country. I love it. And I just thought, bang.
It's a really bad answer, isn't it, to somebody calling you an idiot? I love my country. What?
You're
still an idiot.
Yeah.
Yeah. Paul?
I would, before I will answer, I promise. But I would love for her just reacted in the same vibe, just effing and jeffing back.
Yeah.
She would win prizes for that.
That's exactly what I'm saying. Yeah.
Yeah, if you're not going to do it in good humour, but by the way, that's the best way to do it in good humour, then just give them a load back. Tell them where to go. But also,
it was that rictus grin, wasn't it? Yeah, I love my country. Yeah, I really like to swear at that horrible bastard.
If she'd done that, it would have gone viral on TikTok.
Yeah,
exactly. Well, John Prescott, hello TikTok. John Prescott would have known how to deal with it. He was great when he old two jazz.
He was brilliant. He would have given the guy 7. But he would have probably thrown something at the van and broken the window or something. It'd be great.
I think
everybody notices it. Everybody notices it. People see it. That human touch is just lacking, and that's what I was trying to say before. It's the polished smiles that are just unbearable. And she would have got prizes if she'd have reacted a bit more human.
Yeah, I agree.
In anger or with humour.
I totally agree. I think Rachel Reeves is a good shout actually, because I think Andy Burnham's going to have plenty of time to win Plank of the Week. Not least when he loses the by-election, which would be delicious.
Yeah.
But
I mean. I never did say, but it would have been probably this conversation made me think Rachel Reeves. I was going to say Andy Burnham, but you're absolutely right, Mike. We're going to be talking about him for weeks and weeks and weeks. Yeah. The Rachel Reeves and her reaction, and the reaction that she triggered from the left. This misogyny claim, violence.
Yeah. Oh, I know.
Violence from the working class.
No, Stella Creasy, it's okay. Don't worry about, people threatening to shoot people or, people having milkshakes thrown over them. But, oh no, somebody's shouted out the van window. Oh, isn't that awful?
Yeah, no, I think I changed my mind. I think it is Rachel Reeves.
I think Rachel Reeves wins. Yeah, I think absolutely right. Well, listen, so let's do Rachel Reeves Plank of the Week. Richard III, as we like to call her. Well done. She hasn't won it for a while. I bet she doesn't come out again for about another 6 months. She'll stay locked in number 11 Downing Street. Imagine the poor civil servant that goes, I've got this idea, Rach, and we're going to go up north. What? No, I'm not doing it. Right, so Rachel Reeves, Plank of the Week. Thank you very much indeed. indeed. Tony Lapidus, brilliant. Great to see you. Lovely to have you on the show. Marilyn, always great to see you. You can feel free to go down the misogynistic white supremacist pub now if you want for ploughman's lunch. Paul Cox, great to see you as well. Lovely to have you all on. We'll be back same time next week, we think, but we're not sure, for more plankery. I'm Mike Graham. We'll see you soon.